Listening to MSP Waves Radio. I'm your host, Agro, currently Witness 12 on the Steem blockchain. It is my absolute pleasure to bring to you this evening the Monster Mayor Town Hall.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message. I love you.
And now, coming to you from the classiest radio station on the air, this is
Middle Mayor Town Hall.
All right. Well, it's an absolute pleasure to have everybody here. We're going to go start the Middle Mayor Town Hall. I hope that you guys, it sounds like some of you can hear me and I'm going in and out a little bit. No video. Well, there should be video. The video is on mspwaves.com/listen. mspwaves.com/listen. Actually, I should also make sure I'm recording. Yeah, I'm recording. We're good. We're good. It's almost like I'm getting professional at this. Not quite, but one of these days I'll get there. I do like to start the shows, although I sort of lament this. It's not like technical analysis per se, just sort of a little price update for those that want to have their feelings hurt. Today, Bitcoin is sitting at 6,167. That's a little bit low. That one kind of sucks. Along with the suckage there, we have a little thing that I like to call Steem. It's sitting at 129.90 something. So I'm going with 130. So that one looks a little rough. And then SBD is hurting too. So here we go, 105. So all of those are not pretty, beautiful, wonderful things, but I do like to go stay consistent and report on these things. So yeah, make it great again. All right, so the main point of tonight is I got to go talk about the Steem Monsters official 1500 SBD writing contest announcement. So I released this thing 6 days ago. So on Monday we released it, and so tomorrow's going to be a week. And so all that you had to do this week, technically speaking, is all you had to do is go in, join the Steem Monsters Discord. And in fact, why don't I go put a link to this in chat in case there's anybody in here that still hasn't done this. Expire never, generate new link. Copy that link, and we can go bring that over to copy that link. Oh, why can I hear myself? Oh, why can I hear myself? Oh, somebody must have moved me. That was terrible. I don't know who's messing with me, but yeah, it is creepy. I can hear myself and all that. Oh look, man. Let's go. You know what? I like these things so much. I gotta show people. So if you're looking on the feed, I've been hiring the one of the moderators in the Steem Monsters Discord group to go animate some of the cards. So this is what the angel looks like. Hopefully you guys will go pop in there, and or hopefully you're on my feed and you can see this thing. With glasses. I do wear glasses. I wear glasses all the time. Here. So, I will help you out. These are my normal accompaniment. So, hopefully that'll help you. So anyways, that's one of the animations that we've been provided with. I always forget how to say his name. Let me go look in my, it's Tie to Nikurva. I just think of him as Tie 2, but anyways, that's the sort of animated legendaries that we're working on. I don't know if you guys are and then I guess there's even another one here. So this is like a slightly larger file. So we'll see how pretty that looks. But all these things look beautiful. Hopefully you guys dig this stuff. Oh, and he forgot the card names. What about the names? So that's that's there. Can I make it bigger? Make what bigger? Anyways. So those are the prices. We can go sort of forget those as quickly as we can. So it's a 1500 SBD writing contest, and the way that this thing is working is that there's 6 different splinters. All 6 of those splinters should have like a totally different version of history, not completely, but they're all different cultures. They all work out differently. They might have different religions. They might have different marriage ceremonies. They're all gonna act, basically very differently. There's a couple common elements. You're gonna have summoners, and they'll summon monsters. They have some common history. Like all of their worlds splintered, and there's a prophecy that says all of it will come reunited again. But there's I don't know. We pulled this thing together, and so now it's a big contest, right? It's $1,500, and that contest is split 250 SBD to each team, so that's pretty exciting too. And Ty keeps sending me more. Yeah. So anyways, here's the Steem Monsters account. If you haven't been here, it's worth a visit. It has Steem Monsters, or the account is at Steem Monsters. It has the Discord link here. It has steammonsters.com. That's where you can buy all the cards and sort of participate that way. It has the latest kind of blogs that are going on, so you can catch some cool stories. Actually, this is sort of our last update. Last update is that we're now accepting Litecoin, Bitcoin, and Ether. So that's pretty awesome. The other big news is that we changed what legendaries look like, and that's what they look like now. So I actually was sitting around earlier today. My kids are gone for a while, and they came back, so we bought some cards. Each one of my kids got 10 packs, and my wife opened 10 packs, and so like they open up the legendary, and like my kids go ballistic over this. So that was pretty fun to watch. They were totally excited. Okay, what else do I have? So that's kind of the update. So if you were looking for how you do that, here it is. You can pay with the different pieces. That's all pretty good. So the big thing that I really wanted to talk about tonight is the Splinter template. So maybe what I should do before I do this, I need to go into the guidelines in the other areas and kind of open up these 2 documents. One is a process doc, and one of them is actually the template that you're supposed to do. Oh, and it looks like this is why I saved it. They totally screwed this up. Yeah, this is now somebody's personal one rather than the actual Splinter document. I gotta go find where I put the protected one, but that's exactly why I did this. You scurvy dogs. So anyways, this one's locked. So Steem Monster campaign setting process doc. Purpose, what we're trying to do is build a backstory for the game. So what some people are getting confused with is that we are not yet telling stories. The purpose of this document is not a storytelling doc. It's to facilitate telling stories. And that's kind of weird to people, but that's what we're trying to do. And the story that we're trying to tell is like, this whole continent or this whole universe, like it's splintered, and there's a prophecy that it's all going to come back together, and we're going to try to fill in all of the gaps in between there. But in order for us to tell a cohesive story, we need to know the setting. And the setting in like playwriting and screenwriting terms is like what do the surroundings look like? What's in the world? What do the things in the world look like? Who's in the world? What are the things, or what do the people in the world look like? Like what ceremonies are there? What holidays are there? How does a religion function? How does the economy function? If your setting is modern day America, then most of us know it. If it's some futuristic thing, you're going to have spaceships and time travel and warp engines. But we're doing a fantasy setting, so like we're going to have some magic, some alchemy, some wizards. We're going to have monsters. That's the setting. So we're not even at the point where we're going to tell stories. The storytelling comes a little bit later. But right now, what we're going to do Am I really? Hold on. Am I really like reverberating or something? Is there audio troubles? Does it sound okay? No echo. All right. So so what we're really trying to do, there's actually a document. So I always just do campaign setting Paizo or I could do Pathfinder PDF. So what do we got here? Campaign setting, Inner Sea World. I mean, I don't know. Oh, these are download PDF journalist. I don't know if these are the things that I want. What did I find earlier? Pathfinder campaign PDF. Technology guide. I don't really like that. Here's a Pathfinder campaign setting. So this is just some like random Pathfinder setting that I found. And this is the kind of document that I hope that we're going to make, although it doesn't look like it's going to let me download this while we're here. So maybe that's a bad doc to go off of. Yeah, least exciting PDF ever, or like show ever. Ultimate Combat. I don't know where I put the other link. So, let me go into here. Guidelines. Was it in guidelines? Did I put that? Nope. Maybe in general writers chat that I put that. Hang with me, guys. I'm looking for the link I put in. I wonder where if I can find Paizo. Maybe I need Pathfinder. Sorry, guys. I'm working on it. Pathfinder. Yeah, here's my ultimate campaign guide. Jump to this. Open that up. Oh, now I get a 404. Oh, that's edited. Here we go. So this is the ultimate campaign guide for Pathfinder. I don't know where I found this. I believe this thing is open source. Hopefully I'm not breaking anybody's copyright rules, because most of their stuff is open source. But this is by Paizo. Paizo is a company that does open source gaming. And sort of here's the table of contents. So this is not, in D&D, you have a role-playing game, and Pathfinder is one of the companies that does these campaign guides. And this is the ultimate campaign. And there's probably other campaign books that are out there. It's a role-playing game. This is the campaign for it so that you can understand it. Those are the credits. And then here's sort of what is included in a campaign. So you have character background, downtime, what are the people going to do, rooms and teams, buildings and organizations, campaign settings, how does bargaining work, what is exploration, honor, lineage, retirement, taxation, young characters, kingdoms and war. So what is happening out there? You know, some of this is really about like how does their battle system work, and we're not going to go into like battle systems, but you know, these things are all about helping us understand who the characters are, what early life looks like, and that sort of thing. So, you know, we are not here to copy the Pathfinder system or anything. Pathfinder is a totally different thing than what we're doing, but these kinds of books have already answered the question: how do we build the setting for these games? And so all I'm really trying to do is pull from these kind of books to figure out how do we build like an engaging experience for people? How do we what's that going to look like, and how do we do it? That sort of thing. So that's what this book is for, and that's why I put it there as a reference. You know, don't take stuff out of it because it's not going to help you. It doesn't help your story. So that's the goal. We're not telling stories yet. We got to explain to people what our land is, who's in it, and things. Yeah, every now and then, Jarvie, they do include stories, sort of like in a textbook where they have sort of asides or something. You know, they might tell about the minstrel of, you know, Crosshaven or something. And, you know, it's like a one paragraph story or something. The campaign setting itself, though, isn't like a long It's not like Lord of the Rings where you're telling the story from start to finish and describing everything you see as you go. What these documents are meant to do is make it like I really have this giant open source community, and what I don't want is for like we need to have some official canon, and the official canon is what you guys are going to create, and there's going to be a certain number of towns that we all agree exist. There's going to be some mountains that we all agree exist, some volcanoes, some weird portals, maybe a couple tombs, some great explorers of the past, and we're going to know their names. We're going to have some common lore around like where did these different tribes come from? How did they get organized the way that they are? And that's going to create a common way for us all to describe this. You know, if everybody wanted to go write their own version of Middle Earth, you're going to have like elves and hobbits interacting and loving each other when that's like not really the central vision. You know, like you're just going to get these weird elements. You're going to have the wrong number of race. You're going to have like just a million different challenges. So what we're doing is like I want to facilitate everybody telling whatever story they want in this universe, but we got to have some basics down. So that's what we're doing. Ag cutting out. I mean, I can try to drop out. It might just be that we have a lot of people in the in chat here. Let me drop out a chat. Maybe hop back in. It doesn't actually really matter if I'm in Discord or not, I don't think. Okay, so what are some of the basics? The most common thing that is in all of these stories is that in the beginning the world was whole. Since then it's splintered. The prophecy states that the world will become whole again. And through this process, we're going to discover why the world split, what each color or what each splinter thinks happened, and we'll have some common key elements. So you guys are going to, like, the prophecy is actually a story, right? So there are some story elements that are in here. It's not all setting, but we're not telling the current story. The current story is going to happen if your team makes it into, like, the next round and the next round. So this first round is just, who the hell are these people? The second round is really, let's merge them all together and figure out how do they all fit? How do we make all these puzzle pieces fit together? And then once we have who they are and we know how they fit, let's start having them interact. And so stage 1 is just complete setting on their own as if nobody else was around. Stage 2 is merging all these different groups together. And then stage 3 is let's go have them interact. And that's where the campaign and the story really comes from. Well, no, I mean, it's okay. It's okay if there are stories. Like you're probably gonna have some stories. Like you'll see in the doc, you know, we have a story of like where did the dragon folk come from? You know, that is a story, but it's like a historic perspective of what happened. I'm not writing this is not meant to be like once upon a time there was all this stuff. Like I'm not writing an original story in this yet. Like the campaign is the story. So you know, jump forward 2 weeks to 4 weeks and we're going to write the story. But right now we're just writing the backstory. Okay, so combat, you know, this isn't absolutely guaranteed, but this is roughly what Yaba and I were kind of thinking. Everybody needs their own kind of style to this. So the Zerg, or the Black, we're going to make kind of a Zerg team where you're going to have lots of summoners, or lots of creatures you bring out. In White, they're going to be protection. So you'll have a lot of like buffs and things that keep you from getting killed. Green is going to be tanky, and there's going to be a lot of healing. Red is going to be high damage output. Blue is going to have lots of abilities, and I think lots of spells. We're going to add spells into this game at some point, and blue will probably have more spell options than everybody else. And gold are these going to be extra big cards, and probably with extra big stats, and that's sort of their thing, is that they're the big guys. And that might be good or bad. I mean, some weeks, you know, the biggest thing is going to be the thing that wins, and other weeks it's going to get its butt kicked. In the game, so this is kind of gameplay related, but I think it informs how we build some of these stories and the background. There's in a normal game like Hearthstone or something like that, or not even Hearthstone, but like D&D or World of Warcraft. There's typically 3 main roles. You're going to have a tank that takes damage. You have DPS, and that stands for damage per second. And it could be like a mage that blasts fireballs from far away. It could be a rogue or like a thief that kind of has 2 knives and is just stabbing people all the time. They're the high damage output. They're kind of squishy. You can kill them if you don't take care of them, but they can do a lot of damage. The third type is a healer or a support character where, like, you know, your tank is taking damage and you got to keep them alive, so your healer's back there healing them. And then we're introducing a new type. And that's because the way that our game works is that the front 2 monsters are the ones that are going to be attacking each other. Not all of the monsters are necessarily going to be attacking. But there's going to be, because of that, we also want to make sure that you have an opportunity to kill people in the back line. And so to go do that, we're introducing this kind of like assassin role or a sneak role that lets you go back and kill people that way. They're kind of squishy. Yeah, well, basically anybody other than the tank is squishy. A DPS, like a high damage output character, is usually pretty fragile. Your healer can go keep your tank alive forever, but if they take damage, they're pretty squishy and they're going to die. Your assassin, who's going to like sneak behind enemy lines, they're going to be really good at like killing monsters back there, but if they're taking damage themselves, they're going to die pretty quickly. The only one that's like really good at taking damage is the tank. So everybody but the tank is squishy. So you're going to also have summoners, and those summoners, the way that I originally envisioned this game is that my 2 daughters were fighting, and I imagined one of them like pulling a button off of her dress or her shirt or something, throwing it down on the ground, and a monster sort of popping up out of that. And then my other daughter would respond in kind, ripping off some button off her sleeve, throwing that to the ground, and a monster would appear there. And rather than those 2 fighting each other, they would have their monsters fight sort of on their behalf. And so that's sort of the idea, that you have these summoners and you have the monsters that they bring, and the summoners don't actually hurt one another. They have these monsters kind of do this battling for them. And I'm actually going to go introduce my kids into this game later. So here's one of them, and then here's another one. So these are my little buddies, and they're going to be coming. So there are going to be 2 summoners in the game. And in fact, I'm going to be in the game too, because I'm like that. My wife is already in the game. She's Liana, but that's me. I'm coming in too. And this will be Kevin in honor of Shane Welker. And then behind him is Scalvin. And I'll be I'll probably be on Splinter Black, and I'll be helping like assassins do more damage is what I think my purpose will be. Alright, so anyways, let's see. So like in the game, you're not, each team has sort of its own goal, and each card will have sort of its own goal, and that's just something to keep in mind. Each summoner will have sort of a unique role in what they're doing. But mostly they're just going to buff the monsters. So like the summoners won't actually fight. The summoners will do stuff like all of your monsters get +2 to attack. All of your monsters get +1 speed. Like the summoner will just boost all the bonuses that your monsters have. Built-in imbalances. So this game there's honestly a lot of like rocks, paper, scissors elements to this. So the gold team is sort of this ancient and powerful magic. The black team has to do with death. The white team has to do with protection and sort of astral. And I'm mixing in some alchemy and science with that. The green team has to do with the planet itself. Red team has to do with fire, and blue has to do with water. And the way that the game will work is that we're going to make one team stronger than another, and it's circular. So the green is strong against blue, blue is strong against red, red is strong against white, white is strong against black, black is strong against green, and you'll notice that this is a loop. And so, you're going to, in gameplay, people will keep changing up their team to try to figure out, all right, last week everybody was doing red. That means that the smartest thing to do, if they keep playing red, then the smartest thing to do would be to play blue, because blue is strong against red. But now that I know that everybody's going to play blue, what I'm going to do is play green, and I'm going to get ahead of the curve and go smush everybody that way. So like some of this is trying to predict where trends are going to go, and we'll see how good you guys are at doing that because it'll help you win. There's a bunch of different ways that we can play the game. There's going to be some daily quests. There's going to be a campaign mode. Now, all of what we're doing is really in support of this campaign mode. The campaign mode is really designed to like help us tell a pretty good story. So, you know, all of this background is going to feed into the campaign, and so next week when you guys are going to finish the stories, you'll give me some time to judge these things. Then we're going to go pick some winners. The winners are going to merge all these all their stories together. That'll take another week. And then we're going to start writing the actual gameplay story of like what you're going to do in the map, in the land, who you have to fight, what you're going to explore. That's when we actually get to the story. So we're going to have PvP, some guild PvP. PvP means player versus player. And we're going to have boss fights where you can work sort of with a guild to go kill the boss or defeat the boss. In Magic, there's magic that's obviously part of this fantasy world. So each splinter has to have some type of magic. The only one that I know needs to be there is white has to be alchemy. Everyone else can decide how magic works for them. So green could be seeds, gold could be arcane and internal, black could be through sacrifice. Like they're just ideas. I don't really care how you guys do this, except for white has to be alchemy. Other than that, it can be anything you guys want. I wanted to set some common celestial bodies. So there's one sun and 6 moons that circle that planet. So each team has its own moon, and you can either think of the moons as however you want. I mean, each different community or culture, you know, it's common to everybody that you got a sun and 6 moons. But how those different cultures interpret what that means is entirely up to that culture. Then what I wanted to do is put in some major timelines. So I said, look, it's 956 years from the splintering. So we have to build a timeline that's common. If you look at the map contest post, we received 2 types of map submissions: flat maps with continents and floating worlds. The flat map style is going to be the current map. So in the game, when you click on campaign, it is going to show you a flat map, and it's going to have all these different continents. Okay, so the integrated floating map is going to be the land of the prophecy. So I said there's a prophecy that the world will go whole. So at the beginning, you had all these flat maps, and in the future, you're going to have this whole Earth or this whole continent stuck together. And that's going to be what we're heading to. The world splintered 956 years ago. The cause is unknown. I know it. You guys don't. Each group can have its own interpretation of what happened. Almost everybody from that era is dead. You should assume they're all dead, but I'm going to lie and say, I'm going to lie to you and say they're all dead. And then in game, we're going to realize that some of them aren't actually dead. And we can get some information from them of how the splintering actually occurred. You're welcome to create historical documents. So if you want it in your thing, you might, and more like the space one. Actually, I'm going to show you what. Eventually, what we're going to do is I'm going to use both of those maps. So this is sort of. We'll see. Hopefully, this doesn't spread too far. But my current plan is I'm going to take both of the flat maps and make them winners at different times. So one of them is really like completely separated everything, and that's going to be sort of the most dire, most split that we are. And the map is going to work sort of like a reverse Pangea. So Pangea being sort of the big African continent on Earth, and then everything spread apart. What we're going to do is sort of pull everything back to Pangea. So I really liked having both of these maps, one where they're completely separated and almost like, as you said, just in space. But the second one is sort of more water, and they're going to be kind of like pulled, and they're all going to be more on that one continent. So we're going to figure out how we get there. You can have some boats. I mean, your land can have boats. Your continent could have boats. Your continent, like, I don't know. Don't feel limited by some of the things that happen. Like, we'll make the world we'll make the world fit to you. Okay. So here are some of the events that are common to everybody. So right after the splintering, from 0 to 2 years, magic started working again after the splintering. So right at the splintering, magic stops. And then somehow that prophecy of the planet reuniting is foretold. In 124, the last known survivors of the splintering have all died out. Now that doesn't mean that like everybody on the planet have died, but it means that everybody, like the babies that were there at the splinter, would have made it to 124 years old. So basically, everybody's dead by this year. Not to say that the whole continent's dead, but anybody that could have possibly have witnessed it have been dead for something like 800 years now. That's not entirely true. We're going to run into some characters that aren't dead from that experience, but basically anybody that had witnessed it has died out. So anything that people remember is all through whatever historical documents that you come up with. In 387, there's a season of starvation as all crops everywhere through all the splinterlands have a lot of challenges. And people start dying from that. In 522, a shimmering white light engulfs the planet and meteor swarms hit the planet for weeks on end. So you guys can have whatever interpretation of that you want. Again, the goal of this isn't to make it so that everybody has and thinks the same thing. In fact, it's quite the opposite. But I do want some common elements to everybody. In 804, the Grand Tournament is established on Mount Mox, a small common city where the various splinters actively trade and build something together is formed there. I'm currently kind of leaning towards like there was a civil war or all the splinters were fighting and this is sort of the compromise that brings them together. But it's possible that people have a better plot line than I do, so that's not official canon yet. But it is official canon that the Grand Tournament gets established like 150 years ago from when this game starts. And then more recently, the burn is unleashed across the world. People are succumbing to it. Giants from outside explored Splinterlands are attacking the Splinterlands, led by Exile the Destroyer. So that's sort of our current, most recent event. There's also minor events that I'm going to want everybody to write about. I want you to write about a time of aggression when your splinter attacks the splinter they are strong against. So what this means is that I go back here and I'm like, oh, green is strong against blue. So if I'm on the green team, I'm going to have a time of aggression where my green team goes and kicks the crap out of the blue team. And then I also need a time of suffering, and that's when I respond to another splinter's time of aggression by describing the suffering it caused in your history as the loser. So the green team is strong against blue, and the blue team is strong against red. So if I'm red, my time of suffering is at the hands of the blue team because they went and they kicked my ass. So if I'm red, I have to go put in some suggestions about why did they attack us, what happened during that time, how did I get our ass kicked. You know, the two stories might not line up perfectly, so we're going to fix that during the merger of these posts. But I want you to think about a time that you kicked another splinter's ass and some time that they kicked your ass. And then I also want you guys to think of 2 times of collaboration. So these collaborations are not supposed to happen so blue has green and red. The green is strong against them. Blue is strong against red. The two kind of times of collaboration should be happening with either the white team, the black team, or the gold team. So you'll have one story that's historic where you get to kick somebody's ass, one team that's historic where you kick somebody else's ass, and then you'll have 2 times out of the 3 remaining teams to describe how you sort of worked with them to do something cool. And then we can merge all of those into one big group. Okay, so what else have I got? So this is a competition. So at the end of this, I'm not going to be able to award everybody with 250 SBD. The winning team gets 250 SBD. That's going to be split against all the participants in this. So I'm expecting it's 10 to 15 pages, but once I started adding a lot of pictures to it, it ended up being closer to 30. So, you know, it's not like the pictures are the world's hardest part of this, but it should be 10 to 15 pages of text roughly. If it's bigger or smaller, it just is. Like, I don't have an exact word count in mind. Just tell me who your splinter is, and that's the right number. But when we started putting pictures into the gold, it got a lot bigger than that. So I'm expecting 10 to 15 pages of words. If it's 5, that's probably a little too short. If it's 20, I'm not going to care. But that's roughly where that's at. For the rules, you can only be on one team. And I've started locking the teams. Hopefully you guys have noticed that. If you'd like to work as one entire group, we're already past that stage. I have maybe 3 or 4 teams per splinter that are competing. You're going to have to submit a hackmd.io doc. You could also submit a Google Doc if you've been doing that. I'm okay with that too. But that's how you're going to go past these things along. When you're writing this, you're going to give me copyright. So if you win, you're actually going to hand over copyright. If you lose, I'm going to try to get through and build the campaign guide as quickly as I can, and then any unused material is going to be returned to you. It's possible that even the winners are going to get to go submit parts of this on their own walls, because I want this to be as like open as possible. I'm just kind of covering myself here. I mean, I mostly want everybody to share everything. Because it's good for the game and it's good for the people that write, because then they can get post rewards and exposure, and I can do things like re-steam it. You have nearly complete freedom to create. You have to include a few things. So Neoxian purchased the right to be in the game in the gold team, so we're going to put him in. You have to include these common elements of the major timeline. And you have to sort of fill out the template, but how you fill it out is like completely up to you. So that's sort of the process doc for this. I'm pissed about this, although I knew it was going to happen. Where guidelines? Did I put up a new guidelines, or where did I put? I think I had a different one where they couldn't change it. Let me go hop into a new one here. New. Oops, no. HackMD. Steem Monsters Splinter, campaign doc edited, Steem Monster music budget, don't want that. Edit, no, don't want all my mod meetings. Is it this? Nope, that's for Nate. I'm gonna add him. Is it this? You guys can see all the weird things I'm working on. That's our voice casting call. I don't know if you guys saw, but we're doing a casting call for voices. So that should be pretty fun. What's this? Ooh, that's Neoxian the Dragon story. That's Neoxian the Dragon story. What is this one? Nope. Oh, that should be nowhere around. Probably have to edit that out later. Value system. Splinter template. This'll work. All right, let me go put this into there. Guidelines, writer chat. So hopefully nobody actually still needs this, but if you do, so be it. Here's the latest. Here's the latest HackMD where it hasn't been screwed up by somebody. So here's the template that I need you guys to fill out. Steem Monster Splinter template. Tell me your team name. That team name should really be like, I'll show you in the gold. It's like the Gloradrax, or not just like, hey, Team Red Sea, although that's helpful too. But like, who are the people? The team members, so I know who to pay. Splinter color, so that I know what faction you're writing for. There's 6 splinters, so you got to give me, I guess this is really the name of the splinter. And the first thing I ask for is sort of a value system. On the template that we got, here's a really good example of that. Let's see if I can copy this. Can I paste it in here? No, of course not. All right, bastards. Paint. Control V. Let's shrink that down. Copy all this crap out. Cut. And then put it over here. All right, so there. That's one of the versions of this, or like this is their. What you're looking at is the value system. So what we do, you put the name in the middle, and then you have to decide 2 good traits and then 1 bad trait. So for the Gloradrax, the team decided traditional and religious would be sort of 2 relatively good values that somebody could be happy about, and then you have to choose 1 bad value, and they chose greedy. So the core of this is this triangle here, the traditional, religious, and greedy. And then what you have to do is decide, okay, tell me more about them. And so what you do is you mix the words traditional and religious, and you try to ask yourself, what does that come up with? So in this case, it was they're going to be dogmatic. Okay, so now we know they're traditional, they're dogmatic, meaning like they're really preachy and they stick to the religion. What happens when you mix traditional and greedy? And this is avaricious, which kind of means hoarder tendencies. So traditional and greedy, they just want more and more. They're established already, but they still want more, and they're trying to hoard. And it makes some sense because they're dragons, and everybody knows that you have dragon hordes. Another piece of this is that they're religious and they're greedy. So what's the combination of that? And they came up with righteous. So it's not always just that they are spreading the good word. It is that they're spreading the good word with that purpose of greed, and so their actions are somewhat righteous as a consequence of that. So what else have I got here? I can get rid of that one. Hopefully, yeah, this is the one that's locked. All right, so that's how I put together the value system. Hopefully that makes a little bit more sense of where that came from. But I actually think this is the most important thing you do, because if you don't understand the value system of the people in charge of the splinter that you're creating, it's going to come up as like pure gibberish. Like your teams aren't going to have unified goals. Things are going to be awkward. If there's one thing that I think I've added to this process that really helps, is that it's this value system helps really isolate all the different things that are going to happen afterwards. So the first thing that I ask for is, what's the primary purpose of the splinter? And we're going to try to figure out from the perspective of the people in charge, what is their like major function? Are they helping hold the planet together? Are they hurting the planet? Are they just there to trade? Are they just there to build something? Is there a great works project? I have no idea. What is the primary purpose of the splinter in your mind? Are they miners? Are they builders? Are they magicians? Are they do they study? Are they religious? What's the primary purpose of what they're doing around here? So hopefully that helps set some ideas. And then kind of what is the intention behind that? What are the benefits of whatever they're doing? What are the consequences of whatever they're doing? What resources do the splinter control? How do they harvest them? What are the negative consequences that have? So if I'm thinking of blue is they need boiling water or something, so they're stealing heat from the red. And then what is that doing to red? So yeah, it's benefiting blue, but it's also causing harm, and that's something that I can then explore in the story, or we can all explore that. What races are part of this? What is their ancestry? The government, how are they governed? So I put in some suggestions. This isn't mandatory, but red I put in as a military dictatorship. Blue is fundamentalist anarchist. I saw them all on sort of floating cities. I don't know if you read Neil Stephenson, Snow Crash, but I was imagining something like The Raft, where they would choose to go lash their boats together, or they'd choose to unlash them, and they would float however the hell they wanted, and they'd just leave if they just wanted to leave. So that was sort of my thought for the blue. Black might be socialism. Green could be disorganized, maybe tribal. White might be monarchy with a religious order. and gold. I put this after we decided it. It was like a sun worshiping religious order. So I'm asking classes, what are the key jobs that people do in society? Leaders, what are the high status positions in society? Common folk, what do the common folks do that lack status in society? And summoners, who can use magic? Is it everybody that uses magic? Is it only trained people? Who are the actual summoners and magicians that are wandering around? And it can be totally different for every splinter. Magic, what magic or what weapons do they like? The magic, how does summoning work? Like, does a red team summon fire or like shoot fire and then out of that fire comes something? Does a blue team, do they like get called in through the wind, or do they like splash out of the water? Like, what's it look like when you're doing that? The monsters are all going to level, so we should probably have some idea of what leveling up looks like when they're like getting more powerful. How do we know? How do we know that they got more powerful? Like the green team, maybe some of these monsters have antlers, and the antlers get bigger and bigger and bigger the more powerful they get. So things like that. I wanted to know what does the weather seem like? What seasons are there? What environmental dangers? I wanted to know stuff like housing and architecture. Housing and architecture can tell you a lot about the land, or what buildings are there, what are the major purposes of the buildings. Libraries, is it all police or military barracks? Is it underground bunkers? Like what are the main places where people live, and where do they do business, or how does it all operate? So natural resources. So this is sort of I guess that was another question, but then underneath it is individual order. That's what I really wanted bolded here. But how does that work? So what do they do to survive? Is slavery legal? What does courtship look like? What does marriage look like? What's the honor or celebration around new birth? Food, drinking, and dining. What does the food look like that they're eating? What rites of passage are there? What does it look like when people die? Are there different dress codes? If you have like a really military order, what's that look like? Cosmology, maybe you guys are really following the suns and the moons and the constellations, and it could be that like all the teams have different constellations that they're looking for. You could have a religion. You don't have to have a religion. If you have a religion, I'm wondering what it is. Who do you worship? Why do you worship them? What's your creation myth? Where did your people come from? The prophecy is there. So this is actually something that has to be included. There's a prophecy, and the prophecy is the world it's splintered and it will go back whole. So what is your splinter's interpretation of the prophecy? Who spoke it? Why did they speak it? What's implied? How are we going to get there? You can tell whatever story you want. I mean, it's 1,000 years since it actually was spoken. So everybody could have their own historical record, and everybody could think that their tribe is responsible for it, and I'm totally down with that. What's sacred? What can you own that's sacred? What are you not allowed to socially talk about? What's forbidden? So a lot of this is trying to figure out hopefully you're getting a sense of like, if I know all these things, I know what this culture's like, I know what these people are like. I wanted to get into like, what does luxury look like to some extent? So what does wealth look like? What does poverty look like? Are there arts and entertainment? How do they host plays? Is there a major opera house? Is it all music? Do they read poetry? When they read poetry, is it long prose? Is it like short Klingon, I'm going to kill you kind of poems? Like what are the various forms of art look like to them? How does that play out in theater? And then I'm getting into some of the social structure. What are the institutions? What government exists? The penal system. What happens when people commit crimes? What are the legal systems? What holidays do they celebrate? What major celebrations are there? How do you commence trade and barter? Is there a central authority? Is it all spread out? Do people do whatever they want? What goods or commodities have value? Transportation, how do they get around? What are the major cities? What are the minor outlying cities? What's it look like in the rural communities? Because it's probably not all just super populated. You're going to have monsters and summoners, so what's the training arena look like? And I kind of do need a training arena of some type, because I do imagine that I'm going to have stories in the campaign mode of like people fighting and summoning, kind of like Pokemon style, where you're like, you know, but you got to train and you got to get better, and maybe even montages and shit. What's the education system look like? There's going to be military for a lot of these. What's the military look like? Do you have pets, companions, or sort of wizard familiars? How does the writing work? I mean, trying to think about, what does a document look like? Is it runes? Is it hieroglyphs? Is it emojis? There's no written language, it's only spoken? Is it all oral tradition? Is it maps? Is it symbols? Is it just spells? Is it all math? I have no idea. You guys get to go come up with some of this stuff. How does magic put in? What kind of light or power is there? What does summoning look like? What happens when they're augmenting things? Are there magical plants or beasts in your land? Alignment is really about like, I can pause on that one for a while. How does healing work? What does healing look like? If you're going to go heal somebody, is it, you know, green team planting herbs or seeds or something on somebody's skin? Blue, are you floating in the water of life or something? Red, are you know, like they burn off your injuries? I have no idea, but you guys got to describe what that looks like. Can warriors bring or call familiars into battle? Sure, why not? I got a lot more to get through, Zippy. There's no breathing. So, look, there's a recording of this, so you guys can go watch it 8 more times in slow motion if you'd like. Criminal aspects, you know, I feel like I really want to explore some of the bad parts of the world, which is part of why in the value system I'm forcing everybody to have one bad aspect. So I also want to explore drugs and crime and banking, malfeasance. What does it look like when the government is acting poorly? How does smuggling work? What does the black market look like? I really like curse words and curses. So like in the gold team, we talk a lot about it's all sun worship. And so the sort of slander for everybody else is to call them the sunless. And then I added the team added that there's sort of dragons, and then there's Naga. Naga are sort of like snake people. And so the dragons are sort of racist against the Naga, and they'll say, oh, they're the wingless. So I have the sunless, the wingless. I'm going to have a bunch of other... and then the last one is like, if they look more human than they look like dragons, they'll be the bloodless, because they don't have the dragon blood coursing through them. So I kind of built like this common theme of basically racial epithets to shit on one another in their culture, kind of like a lot of cultures do. So it just gives me ways to explore like how people interact with each other, both politely and impolitely. Because I don't want this story to all be just plain good or plain evil, but I want characters that you like, but then might have some like, you know, that's a really cool heroic character. It's a shame that he's such a sexist piece of shit. Hey, this Naga is really amazing. She has all these powers. It's a shame that like she has no problem killing all people of other races. So like I kind of want some balance in people where like, you know, it's just too easy to make everybody pure good and pure evil. You know, it's like Darth Vader is kind of like, he's badass and everybody likes Darth Vader, but he is a little one-dimensional for most of that, you know, that series. So let's try to get some other things going here where the characters are a bit more complicated. Yeah, flaws. Lots of flaws. Yeah. Thanks, Steam Dan. I don't know why we need a rainbow unicorn, but, you know, it's good that he's dancing. All right, so that is the sort of template in general. And so now I'm going to switch gears and talk about the actual template that the gold team built. So this is the Steem Monsters Splinter template. They built this thing in a Google Doc. So there it is if you're following along back at home. And the goal here is that, like, we're trying to bring that template to life. So Here's an introduction to the Splinterlands. The splinter itself is called Draknaka, and the people that are here are the Gloridrax. So the Gloridrax want to control the Splinterlands and will do so in the name of their living goddess, the Naga, the sort of snake woman, Suam Capri. This is predicted in the Helio Codex, which guides the Helioites in their worship. While they acknowledge it would be too hard to completely take all the other splinters by force, there are other means. The Gloridrax have been having a difficult time reproducing for the last 100 years, and consequently don't want to risk having too many of their kind dying while fighting, so they are working on their conquest in a variety of means. They instigate wars when a splinter gets too powerful, they fund and equip weaker splinters to help fight a strong foe, they're spreading banks throughout the other splinters to force others into submission through debt. They're happy to help some of the splinters when it fits their broader mission. They'll also cause harm and not think twice of it. They'll do what it takes to rule again. Praise the sun, praise Soam. The Gloridrax believe they are the oldest race of the Splinterlands. While many others have forgotten, it isn't lost on them that they taught all the other splinters magic before the Great Splintering, and they also helped them remember magic when it was temporarily lost. It is perhaps a point of contention that the sunless, that's all of you that don't believe in sun worship, fail to recall the debt they owe to the Gloridrax for their current powers. So this is canon. This is going into the game, people. So if you want to adjust your templates, you can. Nobody has to. But just so you know, this like what I'm presenting has already been chosen. It's already part of the story. The Ronda Bat. Yeah, Ronda. No, I mean, people can go be part of this game. They just need to spend a little bit of coin. All right, Heliostones. So Heliostones are old magic. Through a process of first liquefying the light and then distilling it with dragonfire, the Gloridrax are able to capture and contain the essence of magic. The essence is stored in discs, necklaces, and rings of finely crafted gold, dragon glass, empowered by arcane magic to bind the essence within. These Heliostones can make creatures grow larger in size over their life cycle, improve health, and most importantly, suppress the burn. Praise the sun, praise Soam. The Gloridrax manufacture Heliostones and were also the ones who both invented and spread them. The process used to be incredibly labor intensive. It would take nearly all the summoners working day and night to concentrate the light, but basically they could go make them faster. The process is dangerous. More recently, the Gloridrax have been successfully experimenting with obsidian obelisks to concentrate light and mana. They have successfully used volcanoes instead of dragons to distill the essence. It's becoming clear as the burn spreads that increased production of the Heliostones is both profitable and necessary for all inhabitants of the Splinterlands. So hopefully you guys are getting the idea that this is a sun-worshipping religious culture, cult, religion. A primary purpose is to go build these Heliostones, and the Heliostones not only have some good benefits, but as you read into this thing, you'll find it's making them rich, it's making them powerful, it's doing lots of good things. These Heliostones are also making them sterile. And as the game goes, we'll find out that the Heliostone has other difficulties as well. Ambitions. So the Gloridrax are split between returning to glory and trying to survive. They're aging and dying out as a people as sterility is increasing and dragon blood is diluting through centuries. New conceptions of pure-blooded dragons are rare. The goddess Suam Tapri desires conquest to bring the sunless into the light, but knows that warring with the splinters is too costly an option. She instead seeks to rule behind the scenes and behind the thrones. The Gloridrax find solace in and follow the tenets of the Helio Codex, praise the sun, praise Suam. It's the laws that bind their people, the social contract which guides their society, the law of the land, a history of their origins, and a celebration of their living goddess, Suam Capri. So, hopefully this is giving you some idea of who these people are. Now we're going to find out that, they don't care if they hurt people. They don't mind helping people. Either one is fine as long as they're spreading what they need to do. They want to grow in power, but they don't want to die because they know that they can't repopulate themselves very easily. They idolize their ancient selves. They used to be much more dragon, but now they're much more man. Or they're less of the pure dragon bloodline. It's thinning every single generation because it's harder to conceive, in part because what they don't know is that the heliostones are making them sterile. It is suppressing the burn, it is making them bigger, but these are some of the problems that they're running into. So Salam, one of her major goals is to not only conquer everybody, but in part to try to like grow even bigger and even more powerful. They want to produce more and more heliostones, and so they're going to start interacting with the other splinters to try to make their obelisk, obsidian obelisk, to go harvest the light and find volcanoes to distill it, so that they're not making the dragons suffer all the time. Okay, so the value system, we kind of talked about this a little bit, but I have some description that helps people walk through that. We have a counter culture. The youth, frustrated with the problems of the current stagnant and corrupt society, have begun to return to older moon worship called Luntakalna, which roughly translates to moon home or moon origin. Much of the youthful counter is just partying at night, but there are still societies which embrace moon worship and actively teach the youth to veer from the sun. So this looks like something that I can go mess with in the stories to help us. So here's races. Centuries long before the splintering, during the earliest infancy of the Glorajak civilization, a race of dragons originally from the Gold Moon, called the Nistali, Dragon Moon people, made first contact. Often light blue, green, or purple scaled, the Nistali shared their magical technology, peace, and prosperity in exchange for coming and going as they pleased. The Nistali interbred with humans, local dragons who had already been living in the area, and hybrid race of dragonfolk became the majority population of the Glorajak civilization, which then grew at a rapid pace. Moon magic started the civilization, but eventually switched to sun worship as the Glorajaks found new ways to tinker with Nistali technology and refined its potency while being influenced by a caste of zealous Naga. Unfortunately, the dragonfolk also inherited the difficulty in reproduction as the population grew. Eventually, as the centuries passed, all the Nistali that visited Draknaka eventually died off, especially after the splintering, leaving their dragonborn descendants to descend for themselves. Partly as a result of their experiments to alter their ability to produce, and simply in part due to desperation and vain attempts to increase the population, the Glorajaks are in steady decline. They now look to the heliostones for help. Okay. So now we know who the Nishalan are. They're the dragon folk. They're these mix of the dragons of old and humans. And we have a little bit of racism in here. Those who look more like dragons are usually held in higher esteem than their mammalian counterparts, referred to as the bloodless. We're going to have some kobolds. I don't know if you know what kobolds are. They're sort of like reptile people. They're usually small. They're usually weak. They've been conquered, and they're now the slaves that power this empire. We have the full-blood dragons. There are still some full-blood dragons, and they're actually pretty freaking powerful. It's just you don't get a lot of them because they're hard. Nobody's making them anymore. We also have the Nagalis. So the Nagalis are a race of Nagas. So I have a picture of a Naga. This is a Naga, if you don't know. Sort of like a half serpent, half human. Maybe she's even more than half serpent, but those are some pretty good pictures of them. So the Nagalis are a race of Nagas who are descended from Nishtali. While visiting that's a little off, but Nishtali were openly welcoming of worshipping the sun, which the Nagalis actively opposed. While the dragon descendants are having a hard time conceiving due to the effects of the splintering, the Nagalis are less affected. Despite being fewer in number, smaller in size, and less powerful, they've been able to wrest control away from the dragons. There was a civil war after the splintering where the moon-worshipping Naga and the sun-worshipping dragons came to a head. When peace was finally brokered, a Nagalis was put in a position of hereditary power as queen and goddess, praising the sun, but sun worship was to be allowed and thrive. The Nagalis and the dragons have an uneasy, tenuous accord. They mostly want to wrest more power and control from one another, and usually do so by playing splinters and minions off one another in proxy fights, rather than directly conflicting with one another. I don't know which one of my team members went and messed with this paragraph, but it's now kind of hard to read. But I'll go back over that. Ancestry. So, where did these people come from? The Nishtali came from the Gold Moon and landed on the Splinterlands. Legend speaks of Lithic Andrathi, the largest of his kind, holding his breath and heating himself with dragon fire within as he flew from Nishtali to Min Betha Thulu, which is what they called the Splinterlands before it split. It means the Great Seed. Legend has it that due to his size, strength, and beauty as displayed by brightly colored scales across the color spectrum, many female dragons came upon him, and he obliged all of them. He used powerful arcane magic to help mate with the dragons. He even used his magic to transform to humankind and mate with the human inhabitants living in fear of the dragons. He created the Gloridrax from human and dragon alike. The dragon folk believed that the Nautilus were an aberration and bastardization of their kind for magic gone astray. They are no longer bold enough to say it publicly, but they refer to them as the Wingless in private. The Nautilus believe they are a natural creation of the most legendary dragon of all time and a powerful human sorceress living before the Splinterlands by the name of Lakuthra. The sorceress had managed to change herself partially into a snake to mate with the dragon in its true form. The egg she hatched became the Nautilus. So that's some of the creation story of these different groups. Hopefully that helps. Yep, I'm agreeing with Little Scribe right there. All right, so next up, government of the Gloridrax civilization. How are they governed? They're governed by their queen and their goddess, Suam Capri, praise the sun. They're also visors and the dragon priestesses. The Nautilus are incredibly loyal to Suam Capri. Many of the dragons claim loyalty, but secretly work with a wealthy and crafty dragon named Neoxian. Dun dun dun. That's what happens when you purchase your way into the game. You get to be a badass in it. Classes. So we're going to have some priests, some worshippers, some crafters, some mason and architects, and some dragon glass blowers. The leaders are going to be the visors, the priests, the mages, the summoners. We're going to have dragon riders, centurions, and bankers. And those bankers are often operating behind the scene. So who's in charge? It's Suam Capri. She's the living goddess. We'll have some of the visors. Here's a picture of one of them. We'll have some priests. Here are the Dragon Guard. They look a little bit more human than they probably are, but we're going to go show some more that aren't. We'll have some pretty badass leaders. I really like this picture. That guy looks like he could kick a lot of ass. So I also like some of the terms they use. Legate Prime, that has some nice Roman feel to it, even though some of this other stuff. Naga Warriors. So Naga, yeah, I mean, the Nautilus are... It's the race, and then Naga Warriors would just be like fighters of that race. I don't know. All right, so hey, this is one of the. So this is a way that they sort of built in Selenia Sky into this. She's a flight commander, so she's like she's one of the dragon riders, and like. But she is the flight commander. She's kind of in charge of that. She's like an ace fighter pilot or something. So, you know, obviously there's a crap ton more people in this continent than just the handful of cards you have, but this is one way that they introduced her into this game. You got some common folk, you have the summoners, you have a sense of the armor that they wear. You know, they're pulling from some of the Egyptian tradition, they're pulling some from Roman tradition, and just sort of like hot chick anime tradition. This is what magic will look like for them. This is what summoning looks like. You know, their eyes go white, the ground sort of like swells around them, cool shit goes on. So these are obviously not copyrighted images. We're going to go replace them with things that are a bit more like... inherent to our game. These people have to be like dragons or something. What does it look like when they're leveling up? So we have the first level, there's an internal shift. You get some mastery as you move into the second set. You start seeing physical symptoms. There's kind of this enlightenment. So they have this idea of what leveling up will look like for the gold team, and that will ultimately get reflected in the art as we change the art as the creatures level. This is sort of a picture of what the land itself looks like. Here are some more pictures. It's kind of arid desert climate, lots of high peaks where maybe dragons could go nest and hang out. You have some of the major buildings and structures. So they're going to talk about a religious building, the Grand Library, the bank, the Bronze Market, the Dragon Rider Academy, the Heliostone Processing Plant, the Foundry, and then the Infantry and the Cavalry Training Halls. Natural resources, so they have something about what that looks like in the land. And then we get, so that's like kind of the continent and the overall governance. Now we're getting sort of into like how individuals react. Or how they interact. So we have some stuff about survival. We have some information about slavery. Slavery here is legal. Courtship. So we have there's some tight rules around how all this courtship stuff works. So they describe some of that. They talk about marriage. They talk about birth. They mention sort of food and drink that everybody's going to be eating throughout this. So all of this is going to give us the ability to tell really good stories. Maybe I should spend more time, but I'm just nervous about time and I want to be able to answer questions. But there's, food, rites of passage. What does that look like? Death. There, especially where in this culture they're having trouble sort of bringing new people to life. Death ends up being like a really big deal. Like if any of the major dragons die, it's like a week of mourning or something. So death and the sort of like spirituality surrounding that is probably a big deal. They have some good ideas for what they're a little bit too human here in these pictures, but we get the sense of, it's a little bit of Egyptian, but it's a little bit of Egyptian meets like really freaking rich. In part because they sell these heliostones, which suppress the burn. That's going to make them quite wealthy. So like I think there's going to be some real opulence that's built into here. Yeah, we got some creation myth. I actually haven't read this yet. I got to go through that. In the prophecy, this is new to me too. So there's a couple things that I haven't seen in here. But then we're going to get into, what do you own that's sacred? Any religious texts or symbols? Dragon cats. So we're going to have sort of these like comic relief dragon cats that might be put into here. What are some forbidden topics? What can't you talk about? What does wealth look like? What does poverty look like? What does music look like? What is poetry? I mean, we can really start getting the sense of who these people are, and hopefully you're seeing that from all the different layers of this. So social structure, what are the institutions? So we have the bank, we have a bronze market, we have a church and governmental body, we have a court legal system, there's a Dragon Rider Academy, there's some colleges, the trade schools, the Grand Library, the Heliostone Processing Plant, and the Reptile Breeding Facility. That one's new too, that's kind of cool. We have some structure for government, we have a little bit of ideas of what the penal system is, a little bit of idea what the legal system is. We have some of the Gloriadrax holidays, these are great. So you can look at, I didn't see this yet, but just look at how lowest sun, different sun, equal sun, waxing sun, like it's all about sun worship. So all of the sort of major holidays go along with kind of like various parts of where the sun's at. So that feels really consistent and really good. Commerce, we have some heliostones, the dragon glass, obsidian, maybe some smuggling, and a variety of items for charitable aid. Imports are going to be fine metals, water, lumber, gems, spices, things that are basically luxury items that they want to extract from everybody else. Have some medium of exchange. I love this. They decided that the most common mode of transportation is you'll have pygmy rexes. So like they bred pygmy Tyrannosaurus rexes and I guess went for juvenile traits. And so now they have like a pygmy rex that's going to go cart everybody around. And if you don't think that's awesome, you can get out of Discord right now. That's freaking amazing. So we have some of these different cities and they have some pictures of what these cities might look like. Some of the outlying regions where maybe it's a bit more like hovels or around a river or something like there's some water. it's just really well thought out, right? Like you can see they have some wine country. You can have a sense of like the different areas. Then they get into the training arenas. So here, like I think this is Roman. I'm not actually sure, but you can see like how this could be like a big training hall for the soldiers or an outdoor training arena. And what I'm excited to do is make the different splinters kind of hop in and interact with one another in one another's training facility. So like we'll invite the red team to go spar with the blue team, and that'll happen at the blue team's training facility. So maybe that'll happen during the campaign, maybe that's going to happen during the sort of like PvP fighting, and that's going to change some of the rules of what's allowed in individual fights. So there's some fuckery that'll happen there. Yeah, it's 34 pages, but keep in mind, it's, they added tons of pictures. So, like I said at the beginning, it's probably 10 to 15 pages of writing, and they have enough pictures in here where it's probably another 10 pages of writing or so. What else have we got here? Some of the different ranks. We have some notable NPCs, so Legate Prime, some pictures of what these people might look like. Here's your Dragon Cat. And actually, one of the things I'm really looking forward to is spoofing CryptoKitties into this, and like maybe trying to draw some of these cats that the dragons own as like CryptoKitties or inspired that way. Just trying to say that they're our bitch a little bit. The Pygmy Rex isn't really like a sentient creature. Alright, so we'll have the writing system. We talk about magic, summoning. Alright, healing. Gloridrax magic is not innately healing. So this is actually one of the weaknesses that they have. Their healing practices rely on traditional methods, such as magical herbs and such. It's a weakness for the Gloridrax. Like, again, internally consistent is that these guys are huge, they're powerful, they're awesome, but they don't breed very well, and they're really susceptible to death. And they try to avoid it because they're not going to repopulate. So, on the one hand, we made them, like, quite powerful. On the other hand, they're going to suffer some consequences for that. What are some of the biggest laws? Legislation. How is law enforcement done? So, I don't know. There's more stuff about some of the malfeasance. I guess some of this needs to be explained a bit more. So we have some curses that we can put in here. We have kind of some like curse words that might be tossed at them or that they might use. And we had some player characters. These would look cool. I haven't seen these yet. And then we put in, this is maybe what the burn looks like. I mean, I think that looks pretty cool. And what else do I have? And then, so then we talked about some of like major history, so major events. So this is one working theory here. The Titans caused the splintering. While multidimensional Titans fled underground, dragons barely emerged victorious in the conflict. The Heliotech Heliostones had been working on Mage Stones, which take a ton of summoner magic. They thought making a Heliostone would be similar, but it turns out it takes way less, and the amount used was way too big, and they blew up the planet. So that might be what happens. The Heliostones might have actually caused the splintering. This isn't official canon, but this is in there. That's one of my major working theories right now. So after 0 to 2 years, the dragons will regain their lost powers. They retake the planet. Titans come out of the dimensional space. Dragons have their lifespan cut short. They all aged faster, and many of the dragons died. What else have we got here? So a strong set of Dracos started lunar worship, praying for forgiveness. This became extremely popular. Nagas became the dominant species to rule the Gloridrax. Slavery becomes legal. Heliostones are sort of banned and restricted because it's more moon-based than it is sun-based. We have the shimmering white light, so the Helio Codex predicted this. Helio worship rises back to prominence. Nagas less alpha in society but are still present. Still kept lead of the church, but now worshiping the sun. So like there's some challenges that are coming from these kind of common events. You guys might have a totally different interpretation and totally different meaning. We were thinking about this of like the treaty to stop the Splinter Wars. So Mount Mox was created and all the splinters kick in. So maybe after this white light thing happens, everybody feels like, oh, my time has come. So they all start fighting. And Mount Mox this whole sort of like grand tournament is kind of put in place as sort of like a treaty to hold everybody together. That's what I got. I mean, hopefully that gives you some sense of what is this contest? What are we building? Who are these people? Why do we care who these people are? We're not quite telling all of the stories yet. Like the full campaign isn't here, but I don't know, something like 90% of what I just showed you is all canon now. Of like, these are the Glordrax, these are the dragons. They're a mix of snake people, kind of human dragon mixes, and then old school big ass powerful dragons. The dragons can't really reproduce because the heliostones are making them sterile, but the heliostones are also like suppressing the burn. The heliostones are also making them bigger and stronger. So the whole population is working on like expanding heliostone production capabilities, in part because the heliostones are selling because everybody wants to be cured from the burn, and these guys have kind of a fix for that. They're quite powerful, but because they can die and there's not a good way to replace them, there's a lot of emphasis on taking stuff over but not dying and not directly fighting. So that's what I got. All right. Yeah. There's not like a set page limit, Jarvie. So I don't know. And by the time that we stick this into like a real, this is Google Docs, right? What we're actually going to put this into is the like the two-sided format. Got somebody in the room here. So how does travel work between the Splinterlands? So that's not entirely decided. The maps right now. Let me go into the maps. Map contest winners. Steem Monster map 2. So here are the two map winners. So this is these two. This is like the first and second. So like right now it looks sort of space-like in terms of how they're going to travel back and forth, almost like they're separate planets. In the past, he had sort of water in between these. So there's probably water. He's also including things like portals. So he put a portal into all of these. Portal isn't necessarily canon yet. We can include a portal everywhere if we really want and make these things completely separate. I kind of want to go read through the winning picks before we do that. So the other option is that the world is all water and these things are continents. They're not entirely separated and you can just use boats to sort of get around. But what I really want to do with the maps, now that I'm showing them, is that I want to make both of them winners. This one is the one that we start with because this is like the really far apart, everything is fucky, everything is splintered completely. This one looks like, I'm a scientist and I think of like meiosis, mitosis. This looks like it's organizing, like the planet itself is organizing itself. And I can imagine how through this process of sort of organizing the continents and then pulling them together, we can actually build this into what ultimately becomes the prophecy. And that would be badass, where like the world starts off totally separated like this, and then at the end of the first season, it now looks like this. And so maybe we skip ahead from season 2, or like season 2 is about exploring the prophecy, and then we come back to this map, and then we find out that like, what do we need to do to sort of help congeal it together more? And so we're going to have some layers of what this thing might look like. Let's see what kind of questions you guys have. Splinter ships. Yeah. So, that's some of the fuckery that I'm thinking about for you guys. These names should all be, the names can change, whether there's caves and other things, that can all change. I'm willing to bet that the map makers will work with me and work with the teams to sort of figure out exactly where we want this to land. The winners get to iron this stuff out. So, we can kind of take some consensus on what the teams want in terms of like final decisions and how do we get from one splinter to the next. Is there water between them? Is there not? Is it all portals? Like, who's deciding the winner? I'm deciding the winner. Azaria's deciding the winner. And I think that Swelker 101 might help us too. Although I might go ask a couple others for help. I don't know if Clayboyne wants to help me, but he's not involved in the writing and he's a nerd, so he might be a good pick. I don't know. I'll go ask some people. I actually kind of am thinking about asking all the Monster Mavericks, the people that have bought into this game heavily. I'll go ask them and see if they want to participate in sort of scoring any of the teams. Reseller's in here too. He's not writing. So yeah, I bet I could go rope Reseller into this too. It seems like he's volunteering himself. So those are some of the ideas that I had. A writer should be asked. Yeah, I mean, basically anybody on Steam I think of as a writer. Are the Nagalese related to the Naga card? Yeah, probably. Which color did I make the Naga? Like, fuck, I should know my own damn game. Damn it, Aggie, why don't you do this? This is Agro's collection. Where's my Naga? I got a Serpentine Soldier. Naga is blue. That's fine. There can be Naga that come in the blue team too, because the blue team has dragons. I mean, Naga, you can have a different creation myth for them. I have a Medusa in blue. Where's my Naga? Naga Warrior. There she is in blue. Yeah, she's in blue. Just is. That's okay. We can go find out why. Oh, that's pretty awesome. Yeah, Gold Matters sent me a little Manet. So I got a gold G, which was pretty awesome. I have an unboxing video that will come for that. The whole thing was super gorgeous too. When you get that, like, I hope that you like take a moment to just realize how nice it's packaged. The whole thing looked quite nice. I was happy. Okay. Hey, I don't know if you guys saw, but there's now a new video when you actually get legendaries. When you get the legendaries, like, your screen will shake. It's pretty awesome. Okay. Well, and that's all there is to the contest. I mean, that's as simple as it is. That's all you got to do. Just do all of that, and whole thing should work perfectly. All right, I imagine there's some questions. So I'd like to answer questions that people have. What do you guys care about? What do you want to know? What's important to you? Yeah, there's the video. You're feeling jaded. Why are you jaded? Damn bunnies. Yeah, that's all you got to do. Just type furiously. Can I have orcs? I don't know. I'm not in charge of your splinter. If you want orcs, go have orcs. It's possible that you're going to need more time. I might actually do that. The green definitely has orcs. That doesn't mean that you couldn't have like flame orcs. How many teams did there end up being? There's something like 20 teams right now. Yeah, but just because they have stone splitter orcs doesn't mean that you can't have ice orcs. Or it doesn't mean you can't have dragon orcs. Oh, you bastard. Yeah, there's no fighting tomorrow. Although, in truth, Yava told me he got like the very bare bones of fighting functioning. So it's not anywhere near like release date, but he did have two monsters fight each other. So we're getting there. Wondering about the allowed races. There's no restrictions on the shit that you do. You know, the cards are just a subsect of everything that's in here. Yeah, go invent your own monsters like the Nishtali or not. You won't find Nishtali anywhere. Like, the whole thing you can do, make whatever you need to. I don't know what you're telling me, Azaria. What do you want me to do? Okay. Can we charge gold for the use of our Rexies? No. No, my jaded friend. All right, I'd like to answer some serious questions. So what do you guys need to know in order to feel like you can do this? Like what other questions do you have? What political landscape, those are suggestions. You don't have to make it whatever you want. I'm just suggesting some of these things that, like, the play styles of the actual fighting game, that's not going to change. So, like, black is going to be Zerg. So don't, like, keep that in mind. You're probably going to have, like, swarming monsters and maybe a couple big ones, but there's going to be a lot of, like, swarming. So the play style isn't going to change. But whatever but yeah, you can that template is yours. Follow the template, but make it whatever the hell you want. Then you have opted our monsters. Well, yeah, I mean they stole your Rexies and they made pygmy versions. So like you can bring them. Does a storyline contain off the card characters? You can make characters. The template requires you to make NPCs, non-player characters. So like who's the queen, who's the king, who's the great librarian. Put all that stuff in. You know, you're probably not fighting the great librarian at any point. But if you end up making like really awesome cards or really awesome people and you want to see them built into the game, we can probably do some of that too. Okay, what else do I have here? You're gonna make dragons. Okay. Why are you so pissed, Bunny? Whatever. You can answer that or not. What questions do you guys have? People aren't. There are questions, and I'm answering them. They're not slaves. They're pets. They're beloved horses. You know, like if I have a horse-drawn carriage, is that slavery? Maybe it is. I don't know. The gold people aren't super nice, so maybe it's not completely voluntary for the Rexies. But they're pygmy and... Oh, how many voice actors? So, let me go open up one of my HackMD documents here. Steem Monsters. Which one is this? Campaign doc, music budget. Don't want that. I don't know where this thing is. I don't think he named it. Let me go into Music Talk, which is a closed thing that you guys don't even know exists. Oh, that's Trader Chat. Don't want that. Music Talk. Voice acting casting list. This is what I want. So I should just do this while I'm here. Boom, space, done. Kill this, kill that. Alright. This is the casting list. So basically anything that's a... don't mess with this. I'm going to get yelled at for posting this, but I'll do that anyways. You know, we're going to look for people to go put in some of these characters. So there's probably 30 odd characters we'll actually give a voice to. So hopefully you guys fill this in. Here, I'm probably going to go steal one. Don't put your own names in. You guys can't do that. But you guys can audition for these things. And if it makes sense, it'll make sense. And we'll put you in. But there's something like 30 or so. Yeah. Thanks, Jarvie. Go kill the greenies. That's what you do. Yep, so there's the voice actor auditions. Well, reseller, go put your evil voice into... Follow the rules of the voice actor auditions and then hop in. Is there somebody that would like to hop into chat with me and ask me questions or interact with me so that I can explain these things to whatever level of detail you're wondering or want to see? I'm a little nervous of inviting Toriko on because she's feisty this evening, but all right. You want Steam Dan? Do you have a mic? Are you ready to come on? Yeah, Steam Dan, I'm cool with this. Do you have a mic? Do you have a headset? Because you're welcome in here. I'll bring you in. Yeah, little scribe. Here, if you guys want to talk, just put a 1 into chat and I'll bring you on. All right, Steam Dan, I'm pulling you in right now. Steam Dan, you're live on air on the Monster Mayor Town Hall. How are things?
Man, how are you?
I'm doing all right. So we just went through an hour and a half of describing this thing. Where's your brain at? What are you thinking?
Man, I'm loving it. I'm sure that you're more into it than I am at the moment, but I'm really, like I said, I'm making notes of the notes and trying to write tons of stuff, but at the same time trying to making it simple so you can dig it, right?
Is it making sense? Do you understand that this thing is about creating a setting and sort of like putting all the stuff into place to make really good stories happen, and that this is not meant to be like a first-person narrative at this point?
Again, it looks great, but at the same time, as you try to put it into words and text, it's hard, you know, but we gotta work on it. We have to team up and come up with something great.
Yeah, I mean, it takes time, you know, like the green team or not the green team, the gold team has met maybe 3 times now for like 2 hours at a time. Like it took some real time from us. So you guys have had 1 week to sort of assemble teams and get started on these templates. You have like the actual contest starts on Monday, and it'll go at least through Monday. If there's a couple people that need like an extra day or 2, we can probably build that in. But we got to get this thing built so that we can build the story so that we can have a freaking game. So I can't just wait forever. Yeah, Jarvy's asking what team you're writing for, Steam Dan.
I'm for Red Team, man.
The red team? Is that what you said?
Letter C.
All right, red team, letter C. So what? Do you have questions about what we're doing? Do you have questions about some of your plans and making sure that they fit in? Like, is your document? Does it have some real similarities to what the gold team is doing? Is it like completely different? Like, what's going on in your mind right now?
Man, I think that for me at this moment is to stick to your gut, to what you're seeing, what you're writing about, and try to come up with something that you guys can use and you guys like. And that to me is the perfect way to team up. We can.
And the thing to me, what I'm gonna like is that your characters are cohesive and they have like fun strengths and they have weaknesses that are exploitable for the story. So if you've done your job, like, you know, when we got to the celebrations and they're all about sun worship, like, okay, that seems really internally consistent with a sun worshiping religious cult. You know, that makes sense. If we got there and it was all about like, you know, rock formations or something, you'd kind of shake your head and be like, well, this doesn't make a lot of sense. You know, we made them super big and powerful, but we also made it so they couldn't reproduce all that well. So, like, to me, what we're trying to do is build this kind of powerful group, but also give them some severe weaknesses that, you know, the other splinters might be like, if you don't behave, we're going to wage war, like actual war. And that could be like a threat to the gold team that would actually like scare them. Sure, they're big and powerful, but they don't want to die because they can't reproduce all that well.
I'm thinking that that's the correct approach, but at the same time, I'm thinking that we all need to come up with something that is cohesive, like you said, to your story, and at the same time, we gotta find a way to make it work. I'm not going to say that what I'm thinking of exactly because, like, I'm on the spot right now, but at the same time, I know in which you can like add your goal stuff, and you can look at it and say, all right, this can work with my stuff.
Okay, any questions for me? Any other thoughts? I'm going to go bring on Little Scribe next, but if you have questions, I want to answer them.
Going, I think I'm work on it a little more, but my only question will be, how much do you think that we can come up with in terms of changing your story? Because there are a couple of things that I think I can come up with, and they're like can mix with yours, but at the same time, like we can give something a little more from our.
Well, don't worry too much about my story, or it's not really even my story. Don't worry too much about the gold. Like, in the next round, if your team wins, then we're going to merge all this shit together, and some of it's going to get trimmed, and some of it's going to get chopped. Some of it will make sense, some of it won't. We'll add some of the times of suffering. Some of the times of suffering won't make it. Some of the times of aggression will. Some of them won't. Like, we're going to have to kind of merge into one big timeline and one big story. But that's for the winners of the competition. Like, at this stage, don't freak out too much about making sure you are consistent with all the other splinters. All you have to think about for this stage is making sure that you have like a really good, well-written and a completed template, and a template that has a bunch of pictures, and a template that tells a cohesive story of who is your race, who is your splinter, and what does life on that continent look like.
We're on the same page, man. No more questions. Thank you, man.
All right. Well, thank you, Steam Dan. I'm going to go bring Little Scribe on. Glad to have you here, bud. Little Scribe, are you there? Can you speak?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you great. So let me answer the question for Accio. I keep forgetting how to say her name, but yeah. So remember, it's a competition. So if one team is less finished but they have good ideas, they're probably still competing with 3 other teams. So it's hard for me to believe that your ideas are so good compared to 3 other teams that your ideas will just win. I mean, I think the team that wins is going to have the most complete story, and it's going to be the most cohesive story of who these people are. Like, I'll be able to read through this and be like, wow, this all seems really consistent. And if it doesn't seem really consistent, that's going to be the number one thing that kind of throws me off. And I don't mean consistent with like the main storyline. I just want to make sure that, like, when I read it, the value system that they have is reflected in the government that they have, is reflected in the way they get married, the way that they fight, the way that they interact, the way what they hold as valuable and sacred, the way that they slander other groups. Like, it's going to be consistent and make a lot of sense. There's not going to be like all this random shit tossed in there. It ultimately shouldn't feel like it's written by 5 or 6 totally different people, but like one group that has sort of an aligned vision of who these people are. So I guess it's possible. I don't think it's likely. All right, Little Scribe, all to you. What are your questions? What have you got? What do you think so far?
Well, I actually had a question along those lines with Asio, which I apologize if I chopped your name. So you're talking about cohesiveness, and I agree. I think a team that has it all pulled together is probably going to be more likely to win than a team that has a few really great ideas but doesn't have it pulled together. That being said, you did say that whoever puts their entry in, that entry now belongs to the Steem Monsters Incorporated, or whatever you are. It belongs to you, so you have the copyright of that. And if someone had a really great idea, I would imagine, as the owner of the game, that you might want to take those ideas and incorporate them at will. So I was just kind of wondering, if you did do something like that, what would you do then? Would you kind of like send them an SBD, or like, hey, great idea, or would you just kind of flow with it?
I'm not here to steal shit from the people that are helping me build this. So if you win, then we're going to go take it, because that was the whole point of this thing. If you don't win, then I'm going to go approach you and say, hey, these parts are really cool and we want to keep them. But remember, like that, I don't know how much of that will happen. It might, but it's like the different teams, I imagine, are going to come up with some pretty different ideas of who those splinters are. I mean, maybe it's all homogenous and maybe it's all the same, but I kind of doubt that teams of 4 or 5 people are going to come up with the exact same thread. So I could imagine that some ideas might be really good and maybe something is great for the plot, but it might not fit with what the winning team did. So
Well, I liked your answer. I think that works. Like, if you like an idea, you'll just go to that person and be like, hey, we like your idea. Can we use it? And I'm sure they'll be happy.
yeah, I mean, the goal is not like, and then you find like, I in the Peace, Abundance, and Liberty Network, I use the phrase "it's all voluntary," and I do that quite a bit. So these are all voluntary reactions and interactions. You know, I'm setting it up so that I hold the copyright, but like, just because I hold the copyright doesn't really mean that like I can just take whatever I want. This needs to be an agreement. We have to have an accord. You know, the goal is like anything I don't accept is going to be returned back to all the people that write this, so that if you wanted to go sort of add sort of your own fan art or fan fantasy kind of pieces, you know what the final green splinter is, so go freaking make your own little side culture and go publish about that and have fun with it. And that's all built into this. But I'm not
Yeah,
gonna.
that's a cool idea too, like a fan culture, an offshoot. That would be cool.
Well, and hopefully you can do it because there's a whole campaign guide that tells you what all these worlds and what all these splinters are like. And then if people really start doing that, if anybody gets some real traction, we'll go freaking build it into the game later. It just
Yeah.
why
I did
not?
have another question, but it's a little bit a kind of change of subject. I was going to ask you actually 2 things. I don't know if you have room or if everybody else is waiting to get on.
I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of ones for getting in here. Guys, if you want to come on air after Little Scribe, go put a 1 in chat, and that'll help me understand who's coming. But just do your thing.
Okay, because I saw your recent post, was it yesterday, about how Steem Monster cards are now available for purchase through Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Ethereum. Did anybody see that? Are we freaking out about this? Because for me, I mean, I don't know about y'all, but I feel like it's not just, oh, we're just making it easy for people. I feel like that invites a whole new set of blockchainers into our platform and raises the value of our platform, because this game is on our platform, and it's kind of like a little bit of an SMT feel to me. I don't know.
Make no mistake. Well, I call it a DMT. This is a dumb media token. All these things are they're. It's an object that lives on the blockchain, and it's a unique token that we've created. It's a token, but it's a dumb media token. It doesn't have oracles, and it doesn't have like all the inflation rates and other things that the Steam platform has. This is its own unique kind of token thing that we got going here. So yeah, it's a dumb media token that we've created. And
yeah, Neoxian says, do you have a white paper? I don't know if that was a joke, but the white paper is the Steem Monsters campaign, yo.
Yeah, I mean, we're not quite looking for investment. We had somebody come and say, we want to buy your game for $1.3 million. And they kind of ghosted a little bit. But, we started Matt and I really just want to build this thing.
Yeah, don't sell it. Keep it going for a while.
Yeah, it's possible that we'll go take on like some silent partner investment or something. Matt would like to be able to quit his job and go work on this full time. So
I think we all would.
Yeah, if there's some rich people out there that want to go own part of Steem Monsters, it's possible. But you got to look. It's kind of scary for an investor. There's some challenges. The fact that we made, in U.S. dollar terms, we made about $120,000, or we sold $120,000 worth of booster packs in 30 days. So that's a pretty freaking good business.
Why is that scary for an investor? Did you just say it was scary investor?
Yeah, it's a little scary because they're going to have to go, they have to take into account the potential earnings of this place when we decide how much we're going to sell it for. You know, the valuation of this thing is going to be basically 120,000 times 12 gets you into 1 year, and then we're going to either double that or triple that to go get to what the current value of this thing is. And
So you're just talking about like sizability.
Yeah, it was like how much money you're actually going to be able to purchase if somebody were to actually try to buy this thing, or
Yeah,
buy a piece of it.
I want to try and buy you guys. I have like 10 SBD I could give you. Will you
Yeah.
sell it to me?
Yeah, I'll sell you some cards. Okay.
That sounds great.
So,
Okay,
but that's neither here nor there, because I don't honestly think we're going to sell. You're absolutely right. This what we're doing. Both Yaba and I are witnesses on the Steem blockchain, and it is our goal to go spread the Steem blockchain. That's like half the reason that this thing exists, is that it's a witness project. The other half is that this game is cool. I like building stories, and he likes Magic the Gathering and wanted to go build his own card game. So like the way that this can serve our community is part of this, and the way that you know, we can both have fun and enjoy our job of like helping spread this community is there. When people use block trades, and that's the API that Yaba built in, they are basically selling those other coins, and block trades is purchasing Steem, and then they are using that Steem to purchase cards from us. So what we're doing is putting selling pressure on the other coins and putting buying pressure on Steem. Make no mistake, this is a Steem-centric game designed to go spread the Steem ecosystem to people. And one of the next things that we'll have, the goal is to do this on Friday, or by Friday, because we have some interviews coming up that are going to hopefully be pretty big. But we want to be able to talk about not only can you do that, but you can also purchase a new account through the site as well, so that we are adding new members and we are taking money from the other communities to go help pump Steem. That
was another question I had, because let's say I'm on Ethereum and I'm playing CryptoKitties and I want to trade some CryptoKitties cards for some Steem Monster cards, and then I'm like, well, I want to be a Steem Monster player. I kind of feel like I would be more viable as a Steemian. So are you, or do you have that kind of set into it, so you can either become a member through your page, or you can just work on the Steem blockchain through your network? Does that make sense?
We should have account creation built into buying starter packs by Friday. So
okay, because that's killer. Like, that's right there, gold. I mean, everything you guys do is gold, but that's also gold, I feel, in my mind. The other thing that makes me super stoked about this, just to kind of repeat what you were saying, is that when I saw this game first, like out the gate, I was like, oh, that's cool, kind of like Magic the Gathering. But then I flipped out, because I'm like, this is on the blockchain. What it sounded to me like was two people who got together with cool hobbies that they liked and made a genius way of getting people excited about Steem. And then really that's what the end game is you're raising the value of Steem and inviting externals into the platform in a way that's like super user friendly, layperson, anything like that. So that's what I'm excited about. I just have to say that.
Well, thanks. That's what we're trying to do. So
And then,
I'm glad that resonates.
it totally resonates. I don't know what it is. It's addicting, but like, there's that element, because if you already have the Steem fever, it kind of rekindles the fever. I can't remember feeling this excited about Steem in a long time. Like, it's been a few months where I was this excited. So it kind of makes that rekindling happen. I had another question for you though. You were talking about the voice acting, and I missed a little bit on that. Like, what's that about? Is this the place you want to talk about that, or is that a separate conversation?
That's fine. I mean, that's moving a little bit forward, but so there's two things that I want to have happen here. So let me show. This thing gave me goosebumps. I think I can play this. We're late at night, but this has a lot of swearing in it, so you're probably gonna want to pay some attention to that. Where did I put this? Under Fiverr? I think it's under sounds. All right. Well, shit. All right. So I'm going to move. Can you move back into the audience for a second? I'm going to go play something, and then I'll pull you back on.
Yeah.
All right. Give me a moment here, and then just hop into there for a moment, please, and then I'll bring you back. Oh, I don't want that. I need to do VLC. shit. Oh. Hold on, guys. Open file. Steem Monsters, sounds, Angel of Light.
Truth is, I don't know how I got here. I was in my dorm, I think? And then I saw that thing. And it just felt like it was calling to me. It was this weird... Fuck, I don't know how to describe it. It was glowing, I think? And then I could hear drums. And music. And this chanting. And voices that came out of nowhere. And then I saw that weird fire glowing thing, and it just kind of came at me, and I was in this other world, this other realm. I don't know how the fuck to describe it. I was at some party doing drugs or something. I don't know. Oh fuck, I had way too much acid. Shit. And all of these kids screaming my name, and I don't know where the fuck it came from, and this thing, and maybe... I'm not your angel of light. I cannot be your angel of light. I am not the person who you think I am. I mean, maybe I could be. Angel of light. Okay. Here we go. I am the angel of light.
So if that doesn't give you goosebumps, I don't know it will. That thing is so freaking good to me. And I know we got to scrub it. We can't have that many F-bombs being dropped, and we got to make that a little bit better. But man, that is just so awesome. So in terms of voice acting, I sort of imagine two different components, and there might even be more. We'll see where this goes, but I want the story to be as immersive as possible. So we're going to have a couple different parts. When you flip a card, I want the cards, if they're like epics or legendaries, to say something. So I can imagine the mischievous mermaid being like, "Oh, I wouldn't mind helping you with that," and you could just get that little sense that they're going to mess with you.
Like a flirty little...
Yeah.
BS.
Yeah. I can imagine the Lord of Darkness being like, yeah, beware, your soul belongs to me. Or like, I will process your soul. Like it's just all these kind of like little things that happen there. So I want that. I want kind of multiple stories to be built in. So like we'll have a backstory that is written into the character, but I don't mind having some of these first person stories. And Lily totally inspired this. This was Lily Wilton just kind of like randomly sending us stuff. And said, "I don't know if you dig this, but I totally geek out making these things. So here's one." She sent me one for Spirit of the Forest. She sent me one for Mischievous Mermaid, and she sent me this. This one gives me goosebumps because it's like, it's got that heart of what I'm going after, of like the character that's resisting the call to action, the total F up that like is now your angel of light. That's the storyline of this. It's like unintended consequences. It's accidental happenings. It is, you didn't mean for things to happen, and now they're epic, or they're totally blown out of proportion, and sort of like, how do we all cope with that?
That gives me goosebumps too. Like that's like the kind of thing you were talking about, where you have a major character player who has a noble attribute, and then they have some kind of weakness that's playable in the story that you can kind of utilize.
I mean, that's exactly it. And Lily brought that character to life, where like your angel of light is a total fuck up in life. Like that's amazing. That's exactly what I want.
Yeah.
Okay, so those are, and I guess the third way. So way number one, I imagine the monster flips and it says, "You want it? Come and take it." Something like that, where you kind of quippy. There's going to be some like 1 or 2 minute backstory kind of music and tones that you could click into to go listen to their story in first person. Maybe you click in and you can read the stories that the contest winners are submitting and putting in. And some of these stories are so good that I actually want to have them read in sort of an audible format. You could go listen to some of the voice actors telling their full stories over like a 15-minute reading.
That would be cool. So have you already made the announcement? Because I haven't read it yet. I just saw the headline. Have you made the actual contest open yet?
Yeah, we have voice auditions. So all you have to do is read. Fox Fiction won 2 of the contests. Pick one of the Fox Fiction stories and just read like a paragraph out of it, and then submit that. And like what we're really wondering is what all these things are going to have like Carlax the Usurper, right? Like they're not going to be words that like you're often using. So we just want to hear, what is your accent? How does it enunciate when you're saying weird shit? Like, do you have a compelling voice for some of these things? Is it high-pitched and wicked? Is it low-pitched and Lord of Darknessy? I don't know.
And then Lily did background music. Did she put that in?
She put that in. We're not requiring that. We have Harrison, who works with Open Mic, and Azaria, who is like a professionally trained musician and sound production person. They're working on like the sound elements of the game. So like what's it going to sound like when you're just in the campaign? What's it going to sound like when you're buying monsters? What's it going to sound like when you're trying to trade monsters on the market? What happens when you're clicking guild PvP or guild PvE? All of those should have like different sounds that help immerse you into this game and the sort of fantasy element of this. So the soundscape is bigger than just the voice acting, but the voice acting is part of that, where we'll help tell the stories of the individual cards through voice actors saying quips, reading stories, and creating novel stories.
All right. Well, sounds pretty cool. Thanks for letting me chat with you. I will hop off if you don't have anything else.
Yeah, I mean, I'm here for the people. So, anybody else have a one? Who wants to go? Come on. The voice actor was Lily Wilton. Who else wants to come on? Who else wants to ask me questions? If you want to chat with me, just put a 1 into chat, and I'll pull you into live on air.
I think they're all shy.
Right. Clay's going to come and pitch being Lord of Darkness. He can probably woo me. All right, Little Scribe, it seems like you're doing well with the White Team A, so keep up the good work. You guys, other white teams are going to have a challenge. They got a lot of progress on their template. It's good to see.
Well, thanks for letting us do this. Have a good one.
Yeah, take care. All right, so that was Little Scribe. Thank you for coming on, Little Scribe. Let's go bring Clayboyne on. Hey, Clay, how are things this evening?
I don't know. How are they?
Well, they're good. I guess first off, do you have any interest in judging any of the templates? You're not currently writing for any of them, are you?
Nah. I've got some other projects going, so I didn't really have time to do it.
Would you want to be involved in the judging, or do you not have time for that?
I could probably swing that.
Okay, so I will tentatively put you on as a judge. And I bet that you're here to go pitch for Lord of Darkness. Is that what I'm gleaming?
I mean, I think realistically, it's just kind of what you're implying. Like you need somebody with that like low, like guttural voice to do it, right?
Yeah. So what happens when you try to speak in a low voice? How low when you're like, when I talk like this? Like, when I do my guttural, that's what I get. What do you get when you do your guttural?
Filthy mortals.
That's not quite as dark as I thought it might have been. So give me another one. Give me like low. Give me low and deep.
Hello.
See, that's still like whispery. Give me low and deep, Clay. Like with your abdomen out, with your whole diaphragm talking.
I don't know how much lower I can go, aggro.
See, that's pretty good. Yeah, I mean, you should go read a story and put it into the bottom of that, so letting us know you want to be a voice actor. I mean, I know.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. All right, so we got Lord of Darkness things. We got. So you were here. Did you listen to this whole thing? Were you half paying attention? Were you actually paying attention?
I've listened to most of it.
So what do you think of this whole template thing? Were you ever like a Pathfinder or D&D player? Like, does a campaign guide document? Do you know what that is? Just from like normal nerddom.
I mean, you have to have like the general rules of the world before you can build the story.
Yeah, I mean that to me is my basic sentiment of like, and the other thing that I really wanted was like when I did Six Splinters, and this is now getting sort of Game of Thrones-y, right? Like I don't want all of these to just be homogenous. You know, like part of what makes Game of Thrones so much fun is that like the people from overseas are so different. Like the fair skin, you have like the wandering. I can't remember the names. But you have like Winterfell, and the winter is coming, and they're the Northerners. You have like the culture of across the wall, and the sort of free libertarian Celts that live up there. You have sort of like the High Garden and the lush, beautiful seasons, so they're always protected and wealthy from food, and while like they do a nice job of differentiating the cultures. And I one of the reasons, there are two reasons I wanted to do it this way. I guess three. One is for marketing purposes and getting everybody sort of interested and engaged. One is for like different groups are going to have so much different character to bring in. I was really worried about creating 6 homogenous groups. And then if I went and tried to do this on my own and write, 100 pages of text, like, but at the end of it, we just look and be like, they're just like, they're all the same group, but they have a different icon. Like it's too homogenous. So I really wanted all the different voices. And then lastly, I wanted speed. I want to try to get a campaign up and running by September. I better have a freaking campaign setting like ASAP if we're trying to do that.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
So, like, based off of some of what you heard, do you feel like we're on a good track? Like, how did that Gold Splinter seem? Does that seem well thought out? Or do you think that we're going to meet kind of industry standards? Do you feel like we're behind the 8 ball? Like, where do you think we're at so far?
I mean, I think that part was fine, but I mean, I'm more curious to see like how everything kind of interacts, right? Like, whenever I was considering doing writing, like I was thinking about like, like say like the Red faction, how like maybe the land is scorched because of like the fire beetles, and like they're using them to like kind of like push the borders out and expand their territory by like consuming the lands of like their neighboring elements, and then like maybe the miners are going under like the burned lands, and they're trying to like steal all the natural resources out of the ground, and then to obviously like the other elements would be combating that, right? So like their goal is to go and try to like stop the spread of the beetles, but then like you unleash the Cerberus hounds, and they're basically like the foot soldiers that go out and like do combat against the different elements, and like as you get higher up the tiers, like you have the person like issuing the orders, like which direction should the fire beetles be expanding, and who's putting up the most resistance, who you need to like unleash your fire serpents and things on.
Yeah, I mean that could be a totally plausible way that the red team's expanding. I mean, I like the fact that they might just be sacrificing all these beetles over and over again, and like whatever consequences, and they don't care. Like that, like on the one hand, it's like, oh, we have to grow the region. Oh, but we're gonna do it by decimating the population of this one group. So like that's the kind of fuckery that I really want built into the game, where you're making decisions that are good for some sets of people and bad for others. And I think to me it's like, is that an evil action? Like you're helping your entire people. Yeah, you're kind of sacrificing this one thing, but maybe there's enough of them. Maybe you don't care. Maybe that's their job. I mean, but these are the kinds of concepts I can explore. What I don't want like I always thought that Superman was sort of a dumb hero, and sorry for the people that really like Superman, but like the invincible, indestructible, whatever, like that's not awesome or super creative. Like it's better when these things have foils, weaknesses, not just like this one rare element kryptonite, but like deep human character flaws. That to me is much more interested than like I built this indestructible thing, watch him kick everybody's ass.
Right. And see, like my thought would be like the general philosophy of like the red element, right? Like the fire element. Like some men just want to watch the world burn, right? And like they're basically using their own people to try to like burn the whole world, and like ultimately all they're doing is consuming. It's like ultimately if they had their way, they would just wreck the entire world, right? But then like you have the other factions that aren't willing to let that happen, right? Like the green is obviously more harmonious with nature. They're probably like the biggest rivals towards the fire, and like their entire way of life and existence is completely contrary, right? Like they want everything renewable. They're peaceful. They're not really like looking to push their borders onto other elements. And then you have like someone like the like the black element that's just doesn't give any kind of a fuck, right? They're like, they can all be dead because they're gonna manipulate their corpses and use them to further their agenda. So it's like they really don't care at all how any of these factions kill each other. They just want them to all like
All
murder
die.
each other, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think, and maybe they even have a greater good for that. Like one of the thoughts that I had is that like, yes, they're a no fucks given, totally callous society, but what if they were closest to the cause of the splintering? Like maybe in their land they had some kind of like scorched something that through the sacrifice and through like constantly pushing all these dead carcasses against it, they're able to hold it at bay. Sort of like the wall of the north. You're keeping the wildlings at bay. Like imagine, like yes, they're callous. Yes, they're sort of evil. Yes, they're sort of unfeeling. But like the purpose is actually really noble. They just got like really hardened to what they're doing. Like if we don't keep pushing this button, then the entire splinter obliterates, and actually you'll die. Your entire planet dies with it. So give us your dead, because if we're not here, this whole thing ends. I don't know if that's not canon, obviously, but there can be like, if you're gonna make them sort of this evil callous group, then at the same time I would say, okay, that's awesome. Now give them a really noble goal, so that like you kind of root against them and you kind of root for them, and it's like, who the fuck are the good guys and the bad guys in this? And not that I want to like, make evil good. That's bullshit. But what I want to do is explore the concept of like yin and yang, that like every action is going to have some positive effect and some negative effect, and there's just going to, my whole goal is fuckery. Like, oh, you want to do that? Great. Let's see what happens when that goes to excess.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the key, right? Like, make each different faction like more dynamic. Like, obviously the elements have been kind of like played out to every extent, but I mean, I think if you like really kind of like just like dive into like the philosophy of them and like what drives the individual factions and really flesh it out well, I think it'll do a lot better than just being like, oh, well, fire type beats plant type beats water type. Like that shit's just cliche and kind of like boring at this point.
Yeah, and I admit that. I mean, we are certainly borrowing some thematic themes that were established well before us. So we are borrowing heavily from Magic the Gathering and from other, like from D&D, about this whole damn campaign setting. But I think what'll make it unique is sort of not just the groups, but how they interact and where we go with it. So like this, this is still round one to me, and round 1 is really about just exploring your own splinter, and then round 2 is all about merging them together. And the sort of I've been thinking about ways that I can make the contest for that round, which I'm not sure it's a contest anymore. They're all winners, but the sort of objectives for that round that have to be met, I'm considering I'm thinking about like forcing groups to pair up and have one of the you got to pair up one of the people in your team for the time of aggression, where the aggressor is completely in charge of that event, and they force their story on the other. And so some of the ways that you can feel like how that story progresses, and it's not even entirely up to your splinter how it happens. Like that should enforce that it's this aggressive moment, and then as you are writing from the point of view of the loser, like where the storyline has been foisted upon you, and you might even say, hey, that's a really stupid story and I hate it, and you have to write about it. Like hopefully you're writing with some spit and vinegar about it because you're kind of pissed and you don't like it and it wasn't good for your splinter that you're naturally rooting for. So now you're writing about the guys that are forcing this story on you, and you got all the real anger that I kind of want inspired in that story. So I've been thinking about how can I force somewhat uneasy interactions on the splinters as they create the merger of all these things to try to get some of that raw emotion. But that's not here. That's like a week to 10 days away or something.
Yeah, I'm kind of like secretly hoping that the white team are like a bunch of religious zealots and they're trying to go around and oppress everyone with their religious views.
Yeah, I mean, how the team spread, and even if they want to spread, I mean, it's possible that, they become xenophobic and they don't want shit to do with anybody else, and they're just trying to survive and do their thing, and they keep getting invaded. I mean, I don't know, but like this stuff is all. I have some little bits of vision for this, but But I'm willing to take a back seat to what the authors create, and I'm looking forward to. I haven't read all of these things. It takes a lot of time to go read them all, so I've skimmed through a couple, but not many. I don't know. You guys get to go create this universe, and I'm just here to sort of coordinate it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be cool.
All right, Clay. Anybody else have a 1? Who's got a 1? Who wants to come on? Who wants to go talk to me? Who's got questions?
Send us your next tribute.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually a pretty good line. Bring the tribute to me. Anybody else for a 1? Clay, are you coming on after this show, or are we just over after this show?
This is the last show.
All right. Well, if nobody else has a 1, I'm calling the raid. So you guys have about 5 more seconds because of delay. If you guys want to come talk to me, then put a 1 in chat and I'll answer your questions. And otherwise, let's go call this thing a night.
Don't keep me waiting, mortals.
Yeah. Your time has come.
Okay, later.
All right. Good night. All right, I'm calling the raid at 2 hours and 18 minutes. We're automated now. I have a time slot. Did I get kicked off, Ron? I don't really understand. I should know more about my own radio station, but I don't. I thought if I was still on, it was going to go take my feed. Did I already get cut off of air? Well, I know I have a certain amount of time, but there's nobody behind me. But if I stop streaming, don't you go to backfill? And it's not backfill, it's Steam Mix. This is like this is awesome. This is what everybody wants to hear. Good night, whole self or Laura. Have a good night. It goes till 4. Yeah, I know I'm technically supposed to be here for 40 more minutes, but if I end early, doesn't it just go to Steamix and we start Steamix early? Because as it turns out, this whole thing makes me kind of exhausted. I don't know if you guys know it, but Steem Monsters takes quite a lot of time to put together. Is there a weekly radio show list with time slots? Yeah, it's on MSP Waves. MSPWaves.com. Well, you were just feeling feisty. If you're not feeling feisty, you can go come on and ask me, whatever. It's just too late, man. I don't want to, you could sing random songs. I could. Never gonna give you up. Never gonna let you down. Turn around and desert you. There you go. You guys got rickrolled a little. Torco, do you want to come on? People can come on. Otherwise, I just want to go to bed. And hope Ron doesn't kill me. Because it's my understanding, Ron, that if I just kill my feed, that music will just start playing. And it's not like the whole world dies. Jarvie, do you have any questions? Do you feel like your team is doing all the stuff you need to do? Carrie and Chris, are you guys doing okay? Yeah, he's telling me I have to put on a song and dance, but I'm freaking tired. This is my challenge. I never get enough sleep, and I always wake up early, and then I get to my own radio shows, and I'm freaking exhausted. And I have to be up early so that I can go do work. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. I don't see any more ones. You guys don't have any questions. I could go put on my recording. Maybe I should do that. All right. Where did I do this? I put it into Steem Monsters. I did a recording of my show, a reading that I did. So here's the original story of Twisted Jester. So I could go play for you the original story of Twisted Jester, and hopefully that will give you amusement for a little bit so I can rest my brain. Alright, then I gotta keep doing this. That's fine. Let's go listen to the story of Twisted Jester. So, Road to Nowhere created one of the single best stories that I think I've read on the Steem blockchain in the 2 years that I've been on here. So it's from a post entitled Twisted Jester at Steem Monsters Origins. And it's the story of how the Twisted Jester came to be the Twisted Jester. And I like this story so much, I feel compelled to read it, and hopefully you guys will enjoy the performance. I give to you Twisted Jester. By the time you hear my cackling laugh, it's too late for you. I will already have your ripe soul. I am known as the Twisted Jester, and what makes me laugh the most is to see you dead, sir. I would like to tell you my tale of fate when I became this monster. I remember the exact date. Shh, shh. Once I had loved ones, a beautiful family, and worked as a jester in my village of Dunsworth. The village was along the King's Highway, so there was always a steady stream of travelers willing to pay me in silver to perform my knife-throwing act. I had made the show into a grand spectacle. The mixing of comedy with the danger of my blades would have the crowd eating out of the palm of my hand. Much of the humor of my show revolved around poking fun at the drunken antics of Lord Rothschild from Eastbridge. It was common knowledge throughout the realm that the Lord would imbibe on a daily basis to the point of inebriation. Many tales have been told of how he acted the fool because he could not hold his drink. Shh, shh, shh. In the middle of my act, I would dress as a royal and come staggering out from behind the curtain, announcing myself as the merry Lord Rothschild. I would drink from the ale pitchers that were filled with gooseberry tea, giving the appearance of being a sloppy lush, and then juggle my knives in an erratic manner. The audience would howl with laughter as my blades fell to the ground with one sticking into the top of my boot. My family helped me with the act. My daughters and my wife were put in peril nightly as my knives came within inches of their flesh. News of my show spread throughout the land, and one dreadful day Lord Rothschild made his way to my village in the company of the royal guard. Shh. Shh. The Lord had sent a messenger requesting a private show in the main hall promptly at twilight. My family and I were very apprehensive about performing that evening. Surely he would understand that I meant no harm to his character by using his image in my comedy act, and reward us handsomely to be entertained by our death-defying feats. When we arrived at the main hall, the room was lively with the sounds of music and the loud ruckus of laughter. The royal guard was drinking ale in excess, and as we made our way through the crowd, the soldiers saw the beauty of my wife and began to harass her relentlessly. Shh, shh. I should have known better. Shh. I should have known better and got my family out of there. Shh. We got to the front of the hall, and there was a large area opened up for us to perform our act in front of Lord Rothschild's table. A hush came over the crowd as the Lord greeted us with his black-toothed grin. I had expected to see a man of wealth and grandeur, but instead I saw a horrid-looking man who was obviously intoxicated. He began to speak in a deep, gargled voice. I've heard tales of your knife-throwing skills to be spectacular. I would like to see for myself just how good you are. Laughter arose from the crowd. Tonight you will perform your act blindfolded for my entertainment. I considered pleading for mercy, but I could tell it would fall on deaf ears. Instead, I boldly stated, As you wish, sire. I have done my show so many times. I have confidence that I could do it blindfolded. The first part of my act was to stand 30 paces away from my oldest daughter. She would balance an apple on her head and hold one in each hand. I would rapid-fire 3 knives and slice through the apples in the blink of an eye. Lord Rothschild threw down a rancid-smelling, stained red scarf that I tightly tied around my head, placing me in total darkness. Shh. I carefully paced off a straight line from my terrified daughter, took a deep breath, and let my blades fly. I could tell from the cheers of the soldiers that my knives hit their mark. I removed the scarf and looked at the tearful face of my daughter, then to the ground to see 3 sliced apples at her feet. I knew tonight's show would not be comedic in nature, and I did not interject the humor that made my act so entertaining to the normal travelers. Next was the Wheel of Death. My wife would be tied to the spinning wheel as I threw daggers to outline her body from 50 paces away. This would be the most challenging stunt of the night. This feat would be impossible if not for the click of the wheel that I heard so many times in the past. Every time the wheel did a complete revolution, it would make a small click. I knew that if I could tune into that sound, I could judge the pace of the wheel, giving me a small chance to let my wife come out of this hole. My wife bravely allowed me to strap her to the wheel. Her words to me were, I believe in you. I trust that your hand will be steady and your mind clear. I set the wheel spinning and walked back 50 paces, took one last look at my lovely wife, who is staring to the side with no emotion on her face. I again tied the putrid-smelling scarf over my eyes. Shh. Concentrate. Listen for the clicks. I tuned out the chatter and the background noise, and I could faintly hear the click. Swoosh! I let 4 of my daggers fly. I could hear a small whimper from my wife in between the last 2 clicks. Shh! Click, 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 click. And again I threw my last 4 daggers with force. This time I heard a painful yelp come from my wife. I ripped off my blindfold to see her spinning on the wheel with 1 dagger in her shoulder and another in her thigh. She was bleeding badly from her wounds, but alive. I quickly ran to stop the wheel and untie her to the rowdy cheers of the soldiers. I was ready to close out my show. Both of my daughters would stand with their backs together, holding a candle between their teeth. I would then throw an axe from each hand and extinguish the flames in unison. Shh. My daughters reluctantly stood back to back, with candles in place as I walked back 20 paces. Again I pulled the red scarf over my eyes, slowed my breathing, and visualized where my precious daughters were standing. Whoosh! I let my axes fly. Shh! The crowd erupted with cheers and laughter as I dropped the blindfold to the floor. My daughters were halfway back to me with their arms outstretched, ready for a joyful embrace. I had done the impossible, my death-defying performance in total darkness. I turned to Lord Rothschild, expecting to see delight on his face, but instead he glared down at me with anger in his eyes. He slowly clapped his hands 3 times and stated, "Very impressive, Jester. I'm not sure if you are aware, but I too am skilled with a blade. In lieu of paying you gold for your entertainment, I will instead pay you by allowing you to witness my fine skills as barter." He instructed his soldiers to set up my daughters back to back with the candles in their mouths. Shh, shh, shh. Lord Rothschild staggered eerily from his seat and exposed 2 large knives that he had picked up from the table. By the time I looked back from him to my daughters, their lifeless bodies were already on the floor in a pool of their own blood. I burst into anger and tried to get to my table of steel, but the guards seized me before I could lay my hands on a blade. "Execute the jester," Lord Rothschild yelled to his henchmen. As I was being dragged from the room, I made eye contact with my terrified wife one last time as she was being pulled into the crowd of soldiers. The guards ushered me to the center of the village and hung me from the Micmac tree where I stayed for 13 days and nights. On the night of the first new moon, when the sky was in total darkness, I opened my eyes once again. I know not why I was chosen to cheat death, but I will take full advantage of my situation by tracking down Lord Rothschild and killing as many soldiers as possible along the way. Shh. Shh. I am forever searching this land in the hopes that my sweet wife is still of the living and that once again we will be reunited. I am of the element death. I walk with one foot in this world and one foot in the grave, in a twisted state of limbo. Destruction and insanity follow me wherever I may roam. I am extremely accurate with my throwing knives, and with a touch of the palm of your forehead, I have the power to transfer my pain of that dreadful day straight to your mind, driving you completely insane. If you happen across the twisted jester, vultures will be feasting on your dead flesh as you rot and fester. So, that's the story of the Twisted Jester. It's a little bit dark. I don't know if you guys caught on to that. Twisted Jester is not always awesome. It's a little bit scary for the kids, but it's good stuff. It's good times. All right, so I got that story is amazing. It's the best short story that I've read in 2 years on Steam. That's why I'm such a big fan. And did Bunny leave us? I was gonna go bring Bunny on my show. I guess I'm Sans Bunny. What are you gonna do? Yeah, everybody seems to really love the Twisted Jester. Yeah, it's just he's so creepy, and this back leg. I really think this back leg sells the whole thing, because this is such an unnatural foot position. I don't know. I'm a fan. Am I doing dice tonight? I wasn't gonna do dice. I guess I could. Let's see. And all these people are, they're all gamers. I could go buy some packs for somebody. Let's go do 5 packs. Ron, are we de-living right now? Can I play music, or are you going to leave this up? I could stop the recording and just, some people are worried there are too many dark elements to the game. I mean, there are some dark elements to the game, but there's dark elements to the Bible. I mean, part of what I think is, Mr. Rogers was able to go have some difficult topics that they ended up talking about, and they would talk about divorce, and they would talk about hardship, and we can talk about slavery, and we can talk about various elements. There are some dark elements, but part of this is that we're catching the world at the worst part, and part of what we're trying to do is clean up this world that's been entirely splintered, where all the factions are fighting and it isn't healthy, and the world is not doing so good, and the whole goal is to actually make it. I don't know if I'm gonna make this thing horror. I don't mind pushing the boundaries, but I am still thinking that this needs to be so I need it so that when you open packs, you can do that with your kids. You're going to have to do some discernment of what stories you're going to read to your kids, because some of them are going to have some dark elements in there. But I don't know. I want it so that there are parts of this that you could just do with a 5-year-old and not worry about it at all. Particularly opening packs and telling stories. Some of the stories should be lighthearted and easy. When we do the Angel of Light, it's not going to be all F-bombs and acid trips. I mean, it'll be... It might be the monster equivalent of that. In Battlestar Galactica, they say frack instead of fuck. So maybe there'll be some sanitized version where you can get away with saying frack all the time. Yeah, I mean, like, you know, in the those Disney movies, like they do have dark, scary things. You know, like Simba's right there waiting for, like, Mufasa's dead. His uncle killed him. Like, you're allowed to go have some, like, dark elements, even with, like, G-rated things and PG, and this game, because Steam, the blockchain, is PG-13. Like, I'm gonna make the content in this game PG-13 and up. So, you know, is there going to be intercourse? No. Like, are we going to talk about mating and, like, how mating might happen and marriage and ceremonies and birth? Yeah. Like, you know, there's lines that we're not going to cross, but we are going to go venture into some tough topics. Yeah. So, I don't know. Hopefully that provides some thoughts. How much of the story would kids really get into anyway? Yeah, I mean, like 5-year-olds and like 10-year-olds, I don't think that the game would be appropriate to leave them with it. But the reason why I'm doing that is that Steam as a blockchain is 13 plus. So we're not, like, my break line is that, do I think this is an appropriate story for 13? And, like, keep in mind that the Bible has, like, all kinds of rape and violence and you know, pretty intense stories of murder and other things that are in there. Like, you know, you can build some stuff that you can still market to kids, and we don't have to have I don't know. I think there's lines. I'm cognizant that there's lines. That story in particular is probably beyond most lines of 13-year-olds, but, you know, like, you go read the Fox fiction stories and they're not that bad. So, like, if one of 60 of these stories is pretty dark, I think that's okay. I don't know. I don't know that the whole thing is going to be, like, deep and depressing. I mean, I think parts of this will be, and part of the backstory is going to be rough, where, like, an army invades somewhere else, and we're going to go talk about how the people suffered. But that happens in life. I mean, what I don't want to do is, like, you know, not allow the people, like, the U.S. media will go, they outlawed being able to show the body bags coming home from war. So, like, they glorify war and they don't show the consequences. I don't want that. I want it so that if you're going to go to war, you're going to have the consequences, and you're going to go, you know, parentless kids are going to have to go, like, deal with consequences of now being orphaned because of the war, and we can go explore that. And it's not like, you know, we're not going to go into, like, the most horrible, wretched sexual abuse and, like, really, really dark things, but we're going to talk about hard times of things that actually happen in people's lives and try to build relatable characters that are going through hardship. So, I mean, you know, and you guys are going to set some of this, right? Like, you know, I kind of thought that, like, it would be sort of funny if the black team had something like a Dia de Vida. So, like, you know, we, the living, celebrate Dia del Muerte, and, like, a lot of Spanish cultures will have that as, like, the Day of the Dead, and they dress as the dead, and they walk through, and they're in, like, skeleton black paint and, like, white bone. Like, you know, you can have the dead have, like, a yearly celebration of the Day of the Living and have it be, like, this totally lighthearted thing. And, you know, the Lord of Darkness could just be, like, you know, a businessman that is now, like, you know, I thought I was going to be emperor of the world, but now I'm just, like, really chief administrator of this thing, and God, it's a grind. Like, you know, the players are often going, or, like, I guess the authors are going to tell me how dark this storyline is, and I'll build some rough elements in it. You know, I think we should talk about divorce. I think we should talk about drugs. I think we should talk about smuggling and stealing and murder and war not just glorify war, but like focus on some kid that is a summoner who like grows up without parents because they died in the war and they had a rough childhood or something like that. I just can't see myself shying away from that. I don't know, and maybe people won't play the game, you know, that happens, but hopefully there's enough people that dig kind of some of the dark storyline that they're just gonna get hooked. They're gonna get hooked on the story. Yeah, it's got to be dark enough to be interesting. You know, this isn't, even if I write like a Disney story, Disney stories are dark. Oh, Bambi got set fire to. They burned her alive. You know, like, that's kind of dark. That's rough. I don't know. So, I'm not too afraid. You know, I see this of like Game of Thrones meets Monsters. You know, there's some there, somewhere in there, there's entertainment. You know, there's not going to be boobs because we're going to write this for 13-year-olds, but I don't know. She's already hooked. See, that's what I'm looking for. Yeah, Game of Thrones meets Pokemon. You know, we're going to go kill all the lead characters, and it's going to be epic. You're going to get attached, and you're going to be like, Agrodius the Lightbringer is this amazing hero. Oh shit, Agra just killed Agrodius. The hell is he doing? And he made us kill Agrodius. You know, like you're playing the red team after you beat the white Splinter campaign arc where you learn all about Agrodius and like how he heals everything and protects them and all these things are great. And then in the next Splinter, you're leading the team that just kills him. Like how awesome would that be? It would be epic. It would be epic. And like that, but that's what I'm trying to do. I want to mess with the people that are playing and making the game. That would be joy. That would be good times. And that is confirmed. Meme the news reference confirmed. Jarvie, how does that sit with you? Like, who's worried that it's too dark? And you know, we'll get some comic relief in this. No, so it's talking about non-dark. Already the worst type of people in black, the scariest type of society, but I also think it's not demonic and nightmares. Nightmares is just lazy. Yeah, I mean, I think part of what I really want is like if you're gonna make them sort of these like tough as nails, hardened killers, and they're just so used to death and processing death, but like if you're gonna go that route, give them something noble that totally humanizes them too. And I don't know what that has to be. The kind of thing that I started thinking about was like the death team is running some kind of processing plant. The processing plant takes the souls and brings them back to the other splinters, kind of washes them or cleans them, refreshes all their memories and sends them back. If that stops, some horrible thing happens to everybody. So like they do it and they kind of hate what they're doing, but it's a noble sacrifice that all the death team is doing to help everybody else, but it's totally unappreciated, but they're doing it anyways. Like there's a way to make parts of them, even though they're callous and harsh and undead and kind of evil and a little lich-like, and you kind of want to hate them, like when you find out that what they're doing is like completely motivated, or like it ends up not just being the most selfish thing in the world, but actually like really altruistic of the other splinters, and that it's not so much as evil as kind of like a necessary evil, then hopefully we take that original darkness that's surrounding all of this and turn it into like kind of a really noble characteristic of this team. So yeah, so maybe Master of Reincarnation. Again, this shit isn't it's not canon what I'm saying, and Jarvie and his team could easily have a better idea than what I just said. So I'm just thinking about the shit that I just dream about this stuff when I'm swimming laps. So this is one of the storylines that came to my head. But again, the issue isn't what is the exact storyline. The issue to me is making sure that the game is balanced, in that the good actions of one group are heinous to another, and that's just a matter of perspective. It's like Manifest Destiny for the white people was like the greatest thing ever. We are champions of the world. We're a city on a hill. We're the greatest society that ever lived. We're the greatest empire that was ever created. And then if you ask the natives, they're probably like, the white people took our land, they were violent, they scalped us, they raped us, like they are horrible killers. And so, what I want is the history of the victor from the victor, and the history of the loser from the loser, and being able to tell both sides of that story, so that, all of the unintended consequences, or even the intended consequences, are captured. And that we're not looking at this thing one-sided. We're trying to go take into account all the different perspectives. And hopefully that makes for a compelling story. Everyone seems to be calling for negative. Well, no, I mean, I'm trying to make sure that it's not just negative, that it's balanced. And that teams that are just completely negative, I don't think that'll win. I mean, it's okay if the whole thing is dysfunctional, if you're purposely making it dysfunctional, because I think the story arc of going from splintered and dysfunctional to like highly successful and functional is a really good story arc. And if you end up building a splinter that is like really organized, totally got their shit together, everything is amazing, then the next thing I'm going to do is like the chief story editor is to go start your time of aggression or your time of suffering right that instant. So if you're telling me you're already in the golden age, that's great. Congratulations. You're about to get your ass kicked. So I'm gonna find balance even if the players don't create it. So my plan is going to be just it's the yin and yang. It's like creation and destruction. It's going to be good consequences and bad consequences, and it's not one-sided. So hopefully that seems to quell some of your concern there. All right, I got 8 minutes left, and my brain's such mush. And Toriko went away. She was going to go come on air with me. Who's got questions? Who wants to talk to me? Anybody have a one? Anybody have thoughts or stuff you want to share? Yeah, and the white team isn't going to be all good either, Yeah, we're going to go find out what the hell is wrong with them. And again, even if they're all good, it's fine. The story will then be horribly aligned against them. Great, you made it to your pinnacle. What happens when you get to the top? Just ask Bitcoin people at 20,000. The pendulum swings the other way. Yeah, they certainly think well of themselves. I don't know if they think they're all good. They think that everybody should be subservient to them. We'll surface and embrace the good feelings, I'm sure. Interesting, the black team. Oh, I scrolled back by accident. Alright, anybody else a one? Nobody's a one? I guess I need a song. Let's go do a drawing for some booster packs. I need a song. Where am I gonna get a song? Soundwaves Photon always has songs. Stewart.com/@soundwaves Photon. Let's see if I spelt that right. Nope. Soundwaves Photon. That's better. Imagery, abstract, mango, mandalas, all those swoops just doing art, plant life, Steam music, free flow contest. Don't want that. I want music. Steam open mic, wicked game. Oh, this is his daughter. We're not gonna go do that one. Melted alien waves and saturated peach skies. Space beach, chilled waves and ambient soundscape. I can go with that. Let's go play some dice. What do you want me to do? Oh, I didn't even know that existed. And this is what I was looking for. It's super quiet on my end. I don't know what to do about it. Oh, this is volume. Yeah, I don't think that's working. Alright, can't try something new on air. Alright, yeah, you can do dice things here. Okay. We're gonna play dice. We're gonna play a really simple version because it's only 5 minutes. So this is what I'm gonna do. I want you to type in T dice 10d10. That's the command that you use. Just type it in, and whoever gets the highest dice roll will go get a pack. And we'll go do this 5 times, or as many times as I can do it in this 3 minutes up to 5. So just type in that command. Winner gets a pack, and we'll go do this a couple times. Let's go find Azaria. That lady has some good music too. Alright, somebody tell me who won. Not even paying attention, I'm trying to go find a song. So Asia won the 75? Alright. I'll send one to her. Alright, we got one more song that we can go play here for a couple minutes, so I got another round. Let's go play Dice Bitches again. This one's for 2. This one is for 2, so type in your T-Dice 10d10. So, highest roll will win. We got about 2 more minutes left, so try to get this in there. You're listening to the smooth sounds of Space Beach by Soundwaves Photon. Check out his music, because he's awesome. And that's the end of that. You've been listening to MSP Waves Radio. I'm your host, Agrode. Currently Witness 12 on the Steem blockchain. This has been the Monster Mayor Town Hall. Thank you for paying attention. Thank you for listening. Thank you for participating. And I know... Here we go. Veil of Shadows, Ruins of Issa by Azaria. Just like to say goodnight, all. Thank you for coming. Somebody can tell me who wins this last roll. It looks like my boy Odish Sunravel. Did Sunravel win? Should be the 78. That's only a 62. I think Odish gets the last 3. All right, Odish, here you go. Thanks, guys, for coming. Have a sweet night.